everybody got so quiet. Good evening, all. I will call this Bloomington City Council meeting to order. It is Monday, October 27th, 2025. Thank you for joining us here in the council chambers and joining us online. We will begin our meeting as we always do. If you are able, please stand, remove any head coverings, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Once again, thanks for joining us tonight. Council, welcome. Thanks for being here. We're at full strength again, up to 7 once again, so glad to see everybody here. First order of business tonight is our agenda. And we've got our agenda, and I'm going to have one item that I'll talk about, a walk-on item that we're going to do is item 4.2. But first of all, under introductory items, we have a handful of things. We've got item 2.1, which is an introduction of new employees. Item 2.2 and 2.3 are proclamations. 2.2 is a proclamation for Veterans Day, and 2.3 is for Native American Heritage Month. And then 2.4, we will be celebrating some of our awards that our communications team has received once again because of their outstanding work that they do. Our consent business contains 13 items, and Councilmember D'Alessandro has consent this evening. Item 4, once we get to item 4, our hearings, resolutions, and ordinances. Item 4.1 is a public hearing regarding liquor licenses. And then what I would like to do, Council, is add an agenda item, item 4.2, that would be a resolution making alterations to the approved budget and authorizing the use of funds for nutrition assistance and food shelves. And we'll talk more in depth as we get to that on item 4.2, but we have a resolution, and Mr. Walker will lead us through all of this, and you'll understand a bit better once we get to it. Item 5, under organizational business, we have 3 items. We have an update on the Hennepin County Nicollet Avenue Street Reconstruction Project. We have a review on item 5.2, a review of the American Boulevard Transit Study. And item 5.3, we're going to continue our budget discussions. Tonight we're going to be talking about public safety and our legal department. We'll wrap up with the council policy and issue update and adjourn. So I would like to, unless there are additional changes or corrections or anything, I would like to move approval of our agenda as stated, which includes adding that walk-on item, item 4.2.
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilmember Lohman to accept tonight's agenda as stated. No further council discussion on this? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0, and we have an agenda. And first on that agenda is item 2.1, the introduction of new employees. We have folks here, both new employees from Public Health and from our Finance Department. Why don't we start with Public Health if we could? There we are. Yep, if you're a new employee, you got to come up too as well. So,
I'm going to open my notes here.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. I have 4 new staff to introduce to you today. I'm going to start with Ross McKenzie. Ross is our Community Resilience Public Health Specialist. His background includes a bachelor's degree in clinical and applied health science from Drake University, a Master of Public Health and Epidemiology with a minor in Global Public Health from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and the Certified Emergency Manager certification through the International Association of Emergency Managers. He has experience developing emergency operations plans, training staff, and leading resilience programming that connects preparedness with climate, community, and public health goals. Ross is most excited about helping the communities of Bloomington, Edina, and Richfield withstand the unexpected in ways that also strengthen everyday health, resilience, and well-being. A fun fact about Ross, he is originally from Scotland and naturalized to become a U.S. citizen this year.
Good evening, Ross. Welcome.
Next up is Brittany Wynn. Brittany Wynn holds a bachelor's degree from the College of St. Benedict and a Master of Public Health and Public Health Administration and Policy from the University of Minnesota Twin Cities. She brings experience in advancing health equity initiatives, policy development, and program evaluation across nonprofits and local government. At the City of Bloomington, Brittany serves as a public health specialist, health and all policies, where she supports prevention and policy efforts that promote equity and well-being across the community, focusing on substance use prevention and mental health. She's most excited about collaborating with residents and partners to drive lasting positive change. A fun fact about Brittany is she recently picked up photography as a new hobby. Welcome, Brittany.
Welcome, Brittany. So were you two in the same class in the public health?
We barely missed each other.
Oh, okay.
Chips in the night.
Next up is Dennis Vu. Dennis started in May this year as our accountant in public health and oversees financial management and the grant accounting process. Dennis holds a bachelor's in accounting from Athabasca University in Canada and most recently worked at Hamline University in St. Paul, overseeing the grants accounting and treasury responsibilities. Dennis brings over 15 years of experience in accounting and finance, having held various roles in the Canadian energy sector. Dennis is looking forward to learning the great work that public health does and the impacts it has on our populations. A fun fact about Dennis is he has tried scuba diving, isn't a strong swimmer, but has no regrets.
Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you.
And last up, Christine Lees. Christine is the Population Health Program Manager for Public Health. Ms. Lees has over 20 years of experience working in public health across Minnesota. She holds a Bachelor of Nursing from the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., a Master of Public Health and Epidemiology from the University of Minnesota, and is currently completing a PhD in Environmental and Occupational Health Epidemiology at the University of Minnesota. Prior to this, she led the Disease Prevention and Control, Emergency Preparedness and Response, and Environmental Health programs for Dakota County Public Health. Ms. Lees and her team received several awards, including a Humphrey Institute Government Innovation Award, NACCHO Model Practices Award, and the Dakota County Heroes Award in 2019 and 2022. Ms. Lees led the Dakota County COVID-19 vaccination operation, which vaccinated over 70,000 people in 2021. She is most excited about bringing together the 3 population health teams to create synergy and build strong connections internally and externally to help us achieve our mission of a healthier community for all. Fun fact, Ms. Lees is the great-granddaughter of Emmett Culligan, who invented and founded Culligan Water Incorporated.
Well, Christine, welcome to you as well. Each of you individually have a fascinating background. I mean, the 4 of you put together, you could really fill up an evening talking to you. So thank you for being here, and welcome to the City of Bloomington. Very happy to have you on board. Welcome.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Kari Carlson and the newest member of our finance team.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to introduce our new Small Business Procurement Program Coordinator, Evan Icaboni. Evan joined our purchasing team in finance about 2 months ago on September 8th. He comes to Bloomington from the Minnesota Department of Transportation, where he helped expand their equity through contracting program, which supported small businesses and taking on smaller construction projects as prime contractors through new contracting approaches and hands-on assistance. He also managed MnDOT's internal controls program and internal IT policy. Evan lives in Minneapolis with his new husband and their very loved golden retriever, Barney. In his free time, he enjoys long bike rides and trying to keep rabbits out of his garden with a little help from Barney. We're really excited to have Evan on board and look forward to the experience and creativity he brings to helping small businesses connect and succeed in working with the City of Bloomington. And Evan has some remarks for you as well.
Welcome, Evan. Glad to see you. We met the other night at the Port Authority meeting, and I said, "Have we seen you but yet in front of the council?" He said Monday night, so perfect timing. So.
I'm switching things up for all of you here. So thank you so much. I'm so excited to join the city and look forward to supporting our small business community and providing goods and services to the City of Bloomington. My work will include providing contracting support to our local business community, setting up benchmarks for small business spend, and providing resources to my colleagues across the city. So I thank you so much, and I'm just so glad to be joining a wonderful team in the finance office here. So thank you.
We're very excited to have you. Thank you. So Evan and Dennis, Ross, Brittany and Christine, I tell all of our new employees, in a lot of ways, you are the face of Bloomington. People will tune in and see us sitting up here, but you're the people who are going to interact with people on a consistent basis out in the community. And that's how they will judge how the city of Bloomington treats them and how they work with residents and how well our organization functions. And so it's a big responsibility, but I know you're all up to it. And I look forward to seeing you out in the community and doing great things for the residents of Bloomington. So welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Next up are a couple of proclamations. I'm going to head down to the podium. We have two proclamations tonight. The first is for Veterans Day, which is November 11th, 2025. I would like to call up, I know Dwayne is here. We always invite folks up who we're going to present the proclamation to. And Dwayne is a veteran of the United States Air Force. Come on around here. He's a Vietnam War veteran, and he's very active in the Bloomington Remembers Veterans project. And so, very glad to have you here, sir. I'm going to read the proclamation, then turn it over to you. It's Proclamation for Veterans Day, November 11th, 2025. Whereas the courage, dedication, and sacrifice of those who served in our armed forces has safeguarded the freedom we cherish. And whereas our veterans embodied resilience, leadership, and commitment to the well-being of our nation and community. And whereas it is our shared duty to honor their service with gratitude, recognition, and support. And whereas the City of Bloomington extends special thanks to the American Legion Post 550 for their steadfast support of our Veterans Appreciation Celebration and our Veterans year-round. Now therefore I, Mayor Tim Bussey, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2025 as Veterans Day in the City of Bloomington. And to honor our veterans, the city will display a veterans photo wall at Civic Plaza from October 21st through November 6th. It's out there right now, which is also available online. A Veterans Appreciation Reception will be held on Thursday, November 6th here at Civic Plaza, bringing our community together to celebrate and thank those who served. In addition, the POW MIA flag will be flown at Civic Plaza and Public Works from November 8th through November 15th in tribute to those who remain unaccounted for. I encourage all residents to join in remembering and thanking our veterans for their service and their sacrifice. Signed, Mayor Tim Bussey, dated this 27th day of October, 2025. Sir, thank you for your service. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And I'm going to turn the microphone over to you.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, city staff, and all guests and viewers, thank you for this incredible honor. I accept it on behalf of the incredible veterans of Bloomington. I was raised on a farm near Austin, Minnesota. After graduating from Austin Junior College in June 1967, I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. That same year, I lost 2 friends in Vietnam. I chose the Air Force because it offered the best chance to pursue a business-related role while serving. I completed basic training at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, and was fortunate to be assigned to the Accounting and Finance Office at Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, Colorado. After a year and a half, I volunteered for worldwide assignment and received orders for the Accounting and Finance Office in Pleiku, Vietnam. During my time there, family and friends were a lifeline, as they were for all of us serving in such difficult conditions. For 13 months, we lived under regular and frequent rocket attacks. I was then assigned to the Accounting and Finance Center, back in Denver. That's where I met Glenda. And just 6 days after completing my service in June 1971, we were married. My service gave me the foundation for a career in banking, where I worked for 28 years. In 1978, we moved to Bloomington and still live in the same house we bought then. Our 2 children went through Bloomington schools, and both graduated from Kennedy High School. Today, our daughter Kim and her family live in Minnetrista. Our son Travis has served in the Navy for 24 years and is a captain and is currently Director of Public Works at Joint Base Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, where he lives with his family. Some may remember that Travis was the speaker at last year's Bloomington Veterans Appreciation Reception. As for me, I now serve as treasurer for the Bloomington Remembers Veterans, and we're working to build a Veterans Memorial, which we hope to dedicate Veterans Day next year. I am deeply proud of my 4 years of service and profoundly grateful to my fellow veterans and the families who supported them. Thank you again for this amazing honor, and I again thank you on behalf of all Bloomington veterans. Thank you.
I like the pictures of you, Dwayne, those pictures we had up there. I don't know if you saw those or not. It's a dashing young flyboy. Very nice. Well done.
The colored one up there was when I was at the airport up here, leaving for Vietnam.
Wow. Wow. Very cool. Thanks for being here tonight. Our second proclamation tonight is for Native American Heritage Month, November 2025. Clarissa Seidel is with us, who is with Bloomington Public Schools and the American Indian Education Program. Thanks for joining us tonight. Proclamation for Native American Heritage Month, November 2025. Whereas during Native American Heritage Month, we celebrate the rich tapestry of indigenous peoples and honor their vibrant and diverse cultures, which we recognize as inextricably woven into the history and present times of this country. And whereas the indigenous people who have resided on this land prior to the arrival of European settlers experienced injustices attempting to suppress and eradicate the knowledge, practice, and observances of their own culture and spiritual heritage. And whereas from time immemorial, Native Americans have a long and rich history and presence in Bloomington, including Dakota, Ojibwe, and Iowa, and we recognize the 11 tribal nations that call Minnesota home. And whereas indigenous people have and continue to make essential contributions to law and justice, arts, environmental stewardship, government, and many other endeavors. And whereas the Bloomington City Council resolves to support their legacy and preserve their sacred heritage for generations to come. And whereas the Bloomington City Council includes equity and inclusion as one of its strategic priorities and strives to make continued and meaningful progress toward equity and inclusion for Native Americans. And whereas the Bloomington City Council recommits to supporting Native Americans and working side by side with their leaders to secure stronger and safer communities. And whereas during the month of November, we commemorate the rich and diverse culture of Native American people and recognize their continued contributions in strengthening the diversity of our society. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Tim Bussey, do hereby proclaim November as Native American Heritage Month, dated this 27th day of October, 2025. Clarissa, welcome. Thank you for being here with us this evening. I'm going to turn the microphone over to you.
How Madakiapi, Clarissa Makiapi, Damakota, Chinchayapi, Himatahan. Hello, my relatives. My name is Clarissa Seidel. I'm Dakota. I'm from Chinchayapi, which translates to where they mark the trees red. You may know it as Lower Sioux Indian Community, located in southwestern Minnesota. It's one of the 4 Dakota tribal communities. I'm one of the program specialists for the American Indian Education Program for Bloomington Public Schools. Our department is dedicated to supporting the success of our American Indian students in the district by meeting their unique cultural and educational needs. We do this by providing direct services to our American Indian students through cultural group programming and academic support. With our cultural programming, we recognize Bloomington and its surrounding communities have significant connections to Dakota people, past, present, and for future generations. We emphasize this by providing place and land-based learning opportunities for our students and families to participate in with our local community members. Our American Indian Ed Coordinator works with the district's curriculum and instruction department to ensure that our Bloomington educators are educated on Dakota and Ojibwe communities in Minnesota Makoche through various learning opportunities through place-based and land-based. Lastly, over the past few years or so, our American Indian Ed program has partnered with Mark, Jay, and Eric from the City of Bloomington on events and programming. On behalf of the American Indian Ed students and families, Pedamiaye, thank you for this proclamation.
Item 2.4 on our agenda is our presentation about all those awards that our communications department won once again. Janine, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bussey and council members. I'm here to present a number of awards the city has received this year for communications and engagement. The city was honored with 9 awards from the statewide organization, the Minnesota Association of Government Communicators, or MAGC, and 2 awards from the national organization, the City County Communications and Marketing Association, or 3CMA. These award competitions continue to be competitive, with MAGC receiving 162 award submissions from Minnesota jurisdictions, and 3CMA receiving nearly 1,170 submissions from cities and counties across the United States. It is an honor to receive these awards. Receiving a 3rd place award in MAGC's contest in the category of interview, talk show, or news programming was Discover Bloomington, a monthly video segment that highlights opportunities to discover the great activities, amenities, arts, and local businesses in Bloomington. In the special event category was Moving Bloomington Forward, the 2024 State of the City. MAG's 2nd place silver awards went to the Corporate Report to the Community, the city's annual budget report, The Briefing, the city's monthly newsletter, Bloomington Supports Businesses, a video series that highlights a variety of businesses that add vibrancy to our community. And there was one more silver award, but more on that later. The 1st place Northern Lights Awards went to Embracing Trends in Social Media, a strategy that we have in place for more engaging posts, Bloomington Today, our weekly cable television YouTube program, and the Notable Neighbor video series, which showcases the many great people in our community doing remarkable things. For a sample of these award-winning communications, here is a highlight.
Welcome to Bloomington Today. I'm Emily Taplin. Thanks for joining us. First, we bring you the buzz for the week of October 2nd through the 8th.
I've always been interested in art. The decision to officially call myself an artist has come in fits and spurts. I'm Jamie Schumacher Kalakaramaga. I am an artist, author, and mom living in Bloomington.
I've never had a boring life. I love costumes, it's a big part of it. So my name is Riet Veldhuizen van der Blij, and I'm the founder and director of the Continental Ballet Company for 35 years.
You just saw the Notable Neighbor video series in that last slide, and I am happy to report that this series also received a 3rd place award of excellence at the national level. Judges said, "This series is extremely heartwarming and very well produced. The interview setup is clean and very professional looking. Nice job," judges said, "and great concept that showcases a wide variety of community members." Mayor Busse and council members, as you are aware, the 3 Bloomington Forward projects, community investment projects, are underway. The Bloomington Ice Garden will celebrate its grand opening in a couple of weeks. The Community Health and Wellness Center recently broke ground, and the project to improve and restore 9 Mile Creek Corridor is moving forward. I would like to present to you something special about the 9 Mile Creek project. It is well known how 9 Mile Creek Corridor is a much-loved natural amenity. And as in true in most communities, as plans for restoration began, Bloomington heard from its residents through various engagements and surveys the importance of natural resources, trails, and connections to green space. Some people had concerns about the project, and staff wanted to address these concerns as well as inform, educate, and engage the entire community. We produced several videos, among other communications, to explain the why behind the restoration efforts, and also provided opportunities to inform and educate the community on the project and to build trust. We felt it was important to include our stakeholders at the beginning stages of project development. In addition to frequent communications, staff worked to listen and learn with honesty and authenticity. Engagement included one-on-one conversations, workshops for environmental advocates, cyclists, and people with accessibility needs, online engagement through the Let's Talk Bloomington platform, public events, including a creek walk that became a turning point in building mutual understanding. Here's a brief look at one staff-produced video that showed the engagement in process.
Tonight is the 9 Mile Creek Corridor Celebration event kicking off the start of the project.
We have a lot of celebrate your story, how you use 9 Mile Creek, how you use the area, how you use the parks, and a lot of the history of 9 Mile Creek in general. History of the creek through the park area. We have some information on the natural resources, some of the birds and mammals and different species that use the creek in the wetland areas. And then just more of a share with us what your story is with the area, how you've used the area, what you're excited about for the project, what you might have concern about for the project, and just more of a celebration of the area.
We worked with our community outreach and engagement staff here to make this event exciting and welcoming. We've got a food truck here. We're giving away ice cream from our Icicle Tricycle and have games for kids to play to. I think there was at least 200 people here tonight. We are very happy about how many people came out and took their time to talk with us. Hearing people talk about what's important here, how they use the park today, all helps inform our work.
We came to learn more about what is being proposed, and we want to know about the history of the park. We use it frequently for quiet, peaceful walks, getting back to nature and solitude. Even though it's used by lots of people, it's a big place. There's room for lots of people.
I wanted to kind of see what the plan is, just voice my concern that they do this well and not damage too much of the natural wildlife that is there. It's just like the perfect place to study nature with all the animals, the birds, the plant life. I don't want it to be lost.
What I love most about this park is it's a wild oasis right in the heart of the city. You don't have to drive far. You've got absolute beautiful terrain. You feel like you're someplace else. It's quiet, and as an artist, you couldn't ask for a better studio.
Every time we go walking down there, it lets me be wild and free, and I enjoy seeing all the animals down there. It just makes me feel really good inside.
What I've been hearing, a lot of people are excited. They've been sharing stories of how many years they've been coming to this park, where they access the park from, how they use the park, and just an overall excitement and value for the natural resources in this area and for this amenity that we have here in Bloomington.
Public engagement evolved over time from cautious inquiry to active participation. Residents who initially expressed concern about ecological impacts became collaborators, focusing on stewardship activities like cleanup events along the creek corridor. Feedback from the third round of engagement this past year reflected broad community support and appreciation for the city's thoughtful planning and transparency. Numerous resident comments expressed enthusiasm for the renewal and pride in Bloomington's natural spaces. The 9 Mile Creek Corridor Renewal Project demonstrates how transparent communications, active listening, and consistent outreach can align environmental goals with community values. These efforts are commendable and a win for our community. And I'm also pleased to share with you that these efforts were recognized with the first place National Award for Community Engagement in the Resident Participation category. And as I alluded to earlier, this also received a second place award from MAGC. Congratulations to teams in Parks and Recreation, Public Works, Communications, and Community Outreach and Engagement. And Mayor Busse and council members, we share this award with the community and with the folks who turned out to share their concerns about the project. They have been wonderful collaborators with whom we have a shared interest in caring for this community and protecting its natural resources. And some of those members are with us here tonight. And I'd like to introduce to you Chris Ann to say a few words.
Okay. I didn't know who I was talking to. First, congratulations on this well-deserved recognition. You deserve this special honor. I'm speaking to this group behind me. Alone for the volume of letters and emails you received from community members, former Bloomington residents, and visitors to 9 Mile Creek, as I'm sure you were CC'd on many of those. This was over the last 2 years. We can only imagine how many were received in this time period. We understand that all of your jobs were challenging during that time, and we realize that Restore the 9 may have made them a bit more difficult. As a grassroots organization passionate about this cause, we felt it was essential to vigorously engage community members. So thank you for acknowledging our work and engaging with us in creative ways. You fostered a positive resident-government relationship that ultimately helped bridge gaps and promote constructive dialogue. With this in mind, we are happy again to celebrate this national award with the Communication and Park and Recreation departments. Thank you.
Good evening, Renee Clark, Deputy Director of Parks. We're all stewards of this really important natural area of the city together, and it's with much gratitude to the community members who gave so much of their time, their passion to work with us patiently and collaboratively through this process. It was a lot of extra effort. I'm sure many of you have other jobs besides the full-time job and the stewardship that you're giving to this resource with us. And we look forward to a partnership long-term as we continue to care for this special place. So thank you all.
We want to have a photo with the group, so can we come up and we'll take a photo? We've got Ashley here to take a photo. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe shift a little more just down this way so the monitor's not in our way. Yeah. Yeah, shift down. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. I know, we've got such a big crowd. Yeah. And nobody should be behind that monitor, so come on over or come to this side. Yeah. Mayor Busse. Do you want to go up? Oh, good. We can see everybody. All right. everybody ready? Scooting just in a little tiny bit. Perfect, yes. All right. Here we go. Look great. Thank you so much.
Well, good job, everybody. Thank you to our communication staff. Thank you to our Park and Rec staff. Thank you to our residents who were so involved in this. It truly is a team sport, and it's great to get the recognition at the national level for the outstanding work that is done. So thank you, Janine. Well done.
Really is,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Next on our agenda, Council, is our consent business. Councilmember D'Alessandro has our consent agenda tonight. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have not heard of any holds. I'll ask one more time. It doesn't sound like we have any tonight. So with that, I will move our consent business, items 3.1 to 3.13.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember D'Alessandro, second by Councilmember Carter to accept tonight's consent agenda as stated. Any further council discussion on this? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Councilmember D'Alessandro. We will move on, Council, to our hearings, resolutions, and ordinances. We have one public hearing this evening. This is item 4.1, public hearing regarding liquor licenses. And I'm looking for our city clerk or our deputy city clerk. Peter can do it. Oh, here she is. Just in time.
Sorry. All right, good
Ms. Hanson, good evening.
evening. Getting a little election work done in the meantime. So tonight, we're here to talk about a potential liquor license ordinance amendment. Do you have the PowerPoint? Okay, thanks. So as you recall, we were here in July on the 28th at the study session to talk about the increase that we're seeing in alcohol compliance check failures. One of the other things we talked about was late renewal applications and payments, and we're going to talk about at a future council meeting. But tonight, we're talking about that council expressed interest in ordinance amendments that would require proof of completion of an approved server training as a conditions of license renewal, as well as suspensions for the second and third compliance check failures. It's not working for me. Okay. It's not super important. I can just talk. And so for our proposed ordinance for servant training, what we had talked about was asking that 100% of servers be trained within 90 days of hire, and that they would maintain that certification after that. What the city clerk's office would do would provide the applicants with a tracking form that would be submitted with renewal packets, and then the servers would complete that training within 90 days of hire. There we go. And then what we had talked about was proposed suspensions in addition to the fine that the businesses that fail the compliance checks receive. And so the proposed ordinance would add a 1-day suspension to the second violation and a 5-day suspension to the third violation. These suspensions would come before City Council. So should council choose to adopt the proposed ordinance, staff recommends these motions. Are there any questions?
Council, any questions of Ms. Hanson this evening?
Can we go back one, Mr. Mayor?
Member D'Alessandro?
Yeah, can we go back one just to make sure? What was was it 5 days was the highest one?
This one?
Yeah, 30 hours.
5 days for the third, and then after that, the fourth would then be up to 30 days, and that would be at council's discretion.
Okay, thanks.
And to be clear, that's a number of offenses within 5 years.
Within 5 years,
And
correct?
it's a rolling 5 years, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. And for the renewal applications, this would be for any type of renewal, or like if they had a suspension and then had to renew? Can you just clarify that for me?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Moore. Mayor and Council, that would be for all of our renewal applications. We would ask them to have the server training.
So potentially then moving forward, anyone who came forward, regardless of if they had issues or not, would have to provide that proof for any time they renew. Okay.
That's correct, thank you.
And if you could remind us, please, Ms. Hanson, we talked about this, I think, but the renewal training is an online course, correct?
Yes, we're going to offer several options for them. Most of them are offered by places they already have memberships through, and they're relatively common. The state has also several approved courses, so we're going to offer a wide variety for them that will make it easier for the service to get the training that they need.
Very good. That's what I wanted to hear. Good. Thank you. Councilmember Lohman?
Thank you, Mayor. I did bring it up in the questions earlier, but I see, I think it's page 178, or I'm not sure what your slide number is there, but, you kind of see the trends there, the 7-year trend, and I don't know, we're still trying to figure out what that date is when our public shaming ended, but, when you kind of look at that, you kind of go, I wonder if there was, some truth to that if you knew you were coming before us, that, maybe that's the way we ought to be going. Certainly open to, this route or trying to go this route, but I don't know.
Thank you. And thanks for that question. They would be coming before you then now at the second violation as opposed to the fourth with this ordinance amendment.
So we're moving the public shaming up then?
A little bit.
Good. All right, that's good then.
Council, if there's no further questions, I would like to open the public hearing here. Any other questions quickly? Let us open the public hearing if we could. This is our public hearing on item 4.1, the liquor license ordinance changes. For folks who would be speaking, we have a 5-minute time limit, and you will have the shot clock on the wall to tell you how much time you have left in your statements. We don't limit time to be mean. We do it to make sure that everyone has the same amount of time to speak. And what I would ask you to do, if you are speaking, come forward, make sure you state your name for the record, and we have that. If you ask any questions, we will answer them at the end of the public hearing, or at the end of the public hearing, rather than try and answer the questions on the fly. So, with all of that said, I will ask: is there anyone in the council chambers who wishes to speak to item 4.1 this evening? Priyanka, do we have anyone on the phone?
Mayor, we do not have anyone online.
Last call for anybody in the chambers to speak on item 4.1 tonight. Council, no one coming forward, no one on the phone. I would look for a motion to close the public hearing on item 4.1.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Muif, second by Councilmember D'Alessandro to close the public hearing on item 4.1. No further council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Council, questions, comments, thoughts on this? Councilmember Lohman obviously had the thought about the going back to the old way of bringing folks back in, but I do like the fact that after multiple violations, perhaps it would be a worthwhile thing. Any other comments on this, Council? Councilmember Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. The one piece that I'm still just a little nervous on is the 100% for everyone, even if they haven't had any history or issues, and the barrier that puts in, right? Especially because restaurants are one of the highest turnover businesses, and when I think about our community and growing and the different people who are moving here, restaurants tend to be one of the first businesses that pop up. I know my family ran a restaurant because that's what we knew how to do. And so that's the piece that I have hesitation and concern with, is that everybody has to do it regardless of your history of compliance.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Mr. Mayor, if you would allow me just a quick kind of counterpoint to Councilmember Mua's concept, I will just say that it's not expensive. I did it last year myself when I was out of work. I went and got a bartender license, and I passed the test that you needed to pass, and it didn't take much time at all. And it really is reinforcing the point of making sure that they're checking IDs at every stage of the process, right? And it I found it actually pretty informative as somebody who has been of drinking age for a long time. I was surprised to think about the ways that you can get around those things and how important it is. So while I understand exactly what you're saying, I will just tell you from personal experience, it wasn't hard to do, and I found it very informative, even as somebody who you'd think would know what they were doing after all these years. And so I would be an advocate. I am an advocate for it, because I think it will help them in the long run avoid the issues associated with this. And more importantly than anything, this is a public safety issue, right? If we have folks that are drinking underage, then getting into cars and other things like that, we cause problems that are a lot more impactful than, the $20 it takes to take this license. So that's just the way I think about that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a quick question. So if somebody is working at a restaurant and then leaves the restaurant and starts at another one in Bloomington, will their training transfer? So even if there is turnover,
Yes.
it goes with them? Okay.
Thank you for that question. Yes, so most of these provide like a certificate, and it's good for X amount of years, and so that it's not tied to the location, it's just tied to the person.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I will say I am in support of these changes. I think, like Councilmember D'Alessandro said, this is a public safety issue, and the rate at which we are seeing increased failures and compliance checks is very concerning, and so I think this is the right step forward. So thank you.
Anything in addition, Council? Councilmember Nelson.
Did we have specific feedback from owners of restaurants? Did we reach out to them?
We did not reach out to the owners of the restaurants. This came more from a place of the administrative burden that it is putting on our staff and our police department and our legal department, and the public safety concerns over the dramatic increase in the failures.
Thank you.
Council, if there's no further questions or comments, I would look for action on item 4.1. Councilmember Carter.
I'd move to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the City Code related to alcoholic beverage control and fines for violations of Chapter 13 as set forth in Appendix A.
Motion by Councilmember Carter, second by Councilmember D'Alessandro, to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the City Code related to alcoholic beverage control and fines for violations. Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to vote against this for just one thing. I think if we have an ordinance that's going to impact a group of businesses, I think we should reach out to them. And not having that input, I think does them an injustice. I actually agree with all this stuff. I don't think it's onerous. I don't think it's over the top. I completely agree with my colleague here that brought up that, the change from bringing them in here is probably beneficial, that on the second time that they do have to come before us. I think the other stuff is good. I don't disagree with the policy. If we're going to pass something that impacts businesses or residents or whoever it's going to impact, they should be involved in it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other discussion on this? Councilmember Rivas?
Just one comment. Have they been made aware that there are possible changes coming to the ordinances?
Thank you for that question. They have just been made aware through our normal process of notification that an ordinance is being considered. So not direct mail or anything like that.
But there have been some communication extended to restaurant owners and liquor stores and such, right?
Just if they're following council packets and agendas, they would see it there.
All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Carter.
I'm wondering, although there wasn't engagement on the front end, maybe there could be a more robust kind of rollout and communications plan with restaurant partners in Bloomington. I mean, I worked in the restaurant industry for a very long time as well. There's all kinds of training and things that you have to do, right? I don't think it's, I understand that these are changes for the restaurant community, but I'm assuming that staff will share this is why we've done this. We saw increasing rates of compliance check failures. So the council decided, I don't know, I guess to me it seems pretty common sense and straightforward, but maybe, I'm just wondering if your comfort level would increase if there was a robust kind of outreach and communications plan and like sharing rationale.
Is that a question for me?
To those who have concerns.
Councilmember Nelson, in response?
For me, no. I think it should be done beforehand. I think they should have been notified directly on this. I think that they should have been involved in the discussion because, to be perfectly candid, maybe they have better ideas on how to do this. Again, I think I look at all of this, it looks rational, it looks reasonable, it makes sense to me. I'm not against what you're doing. We should talk to those people that are impacted by things before we do it. Before, not after. That's just where I'm at. So.
Councilmember Del Sandro.
Just as a comment, I'm going to support this because I actually disagree with that sentiment. The people that are going to be most concerned about this are people who are violating this right now. And frankly, I don't care what they think because they should be doing a better job. And I don't need them to come in here and tell me to soften the penalties associated with them being non-compliant to something that's been on the books forever. So please just ID people and don't give drinking to underage kids. That's what we're asking you to do. You probably should be doing that all along, and nothing you're going to tell me tells me that I'm going to do something different if you continue to violate that. So, that's kind of where I sit in it. And so if I understand community engagement, I do, but these are penalties for non-compliance with a law that exists countrywide. And it doesn't feel like something they should have a say in when what we're trying to do is explain to them that they need to follow the rules. And that's kind of why I wouldn't, maybe we should notify them. Okay, sure, we put something in the paper, it's a public hearing, and nobody came forward to say they do or do not like it. So that's just where my head's at. I understand the need, but I think we have the continuum of conversation that we have, right, with community engagement. This just doesn't fall on that line to me at all.
Councilmember Rivas.
I will be content with sending information to them before the ordinance becomes effective. I think we owe it to the community, the business community as a whole. We should in the future try to communicate it to them, but at this point, we discussed this extensively before, and I think it calls for this. However, we should communicate it to them that it is coming. I think it's our obligation to make sure that they do find out. I will be happy with that. At this point, I know we discussed this extensively last time we spoke about it. So I will be happy if you take steps to make sure that they do know months before this becomes effective so that they are aware of it. Perhaps that will be enough for them to fix their issues and be compliant, comply with the requisitions, right?
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Mayor, members of the council, if it would please the council as well, right now ordinance is going to affect 10 days after adoption by the council. You could always delay the effective date, and staff could send out a mail as early as tomorrow, pulling down the businesses who have liquor licenses, making them aware of a to-be-determined date, maybe 30, 45 days into the future, the ordinance changes and the effective date that's coming forward.
That would work, I would think. So council, I think we've had the opportunity. We've got a motion and a second on the table to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the City Code related to alcoholic beverage control and fines for violations, bless you, of Chapter 13 as set forth in Appendix A. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Do we need to, Mr. Mayor, do we need to make the amendment here then that says effective?
I think that's more of a
X?
staff direction as opposed to amendment to it. What,
Mayor, members, the last part of the ordinance has an effective date in there. Right now, it's stated as upon publication, which is our typical, but you all are legally allowed to state a different date if you want to state another date. One note I will just make is that the date that you state, if it's further into the future, may not be able to be incorporated into the next round of compliance checks if it's too far out into the future. Compliance checks often happen this time of year. So just something to note with regard to timing, but if you wanted to put an effective date of 14 days or something like that and direct staff to mail notice right away, they will. This will also go in the paper. We publish ordinances after they're adopted. So,
thank you. And thanks for bringing that up. I think, council, if we could say 14 days, enforcement 14 days after approval, and then direct staff to send out notifications and information to affected businesses prior to the approval or prior to the implementation date, 14 days after approval.
Mayor,
Make sense?
one more thing. The compliance checks for 2025 have already been completed, so there would not affect the
Good to know.
2025.
Okay,
I'm comfortable with that
amendment
to my motion.
thank you. So 14 days from tonight. Does everybody understand what we're talking here? All right. We've got a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries, I think I'm counting 4-3, is that correct?
I'm against. I'm with the no.
5-2, I'm sorry. 5-2, with Councilmember Nelson and Councilmember Mua.
I voted no too.
And that's why I said, yeah, it passed 4-3 with Councilmembers Nelson, Lohman, and Mua voting no. Okay. Councilmember Carter, I need a motion for summary publication, please.
All right, I would move to adopt a resolution directing summary publication of ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the City Code related to alcoholic beverage control and fines for violations of Chapter 13 as set forth in Appendix A. Do I have to add the amendment under this one too?
Yeah, Mayor, members, we'd be looking for an edit to that. We'll state the specific date that it's effective in the text. You can direct us to do that.
Okay, I direct you to do that.
Very good. Motion by Councilmember Carter, second by Councilmember D'Alessandro for summary publication. No further council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you much. Next on our agenda, Council, is the item that we walked on at the start of the meeting with our agenda adoption that we did. This is a resolution making alterations to the approved budget and authorizing the use of funds for nutrition assistance and food shelves. As promised, Mr. Walker is going to elucidate a little bit more on this and fill us in. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Just want to start off by saying I don't think any of us on staff want to make this a routine practice, but what we're dealing with is certainly not in the realm of routine. As you know, the federal government is in the midst of one of the longest shutdowns in recent history. And while public attention has been focused on Washington, we're starting to see real impact here locally in Bloomington and across Hennepin County, especially when it comes to food access. If the shutdown continues into November, SNAP benefits will stop on November 1st. As you may know, SNAP is administered by counties, and losing those benefits would immediately affect many families who rely on that support to put food on the table. In Hennepin County, about 110,000 residents receive SNAP, which totals roughly $200 million annually. That includes 42,000 children, 14,000 seniors, and 37,000 people with disabilities. Locally, that's about 5,200 residents in Bloomington, 1,400 in Edina, and 1,800 in Richfield who are receiving SNAP assistance.
When SNAP stops, or if it stops, I should say, we expect increased pressure on WIC as well, which provides nutrition support for pregnant women, infants, and young children. And in our Tri-City service area, about 3,100 residents have used WIC so far this year alone, including 1,700 in Bloomington, 660 in Richfield, and 172 in Edina. With WIC, we're delivering about $125,000 in food support every month, or nearly $2 million annually to local grocery stores. So if the shutdown continues through November, WIC funding could run out, putting families with infants, particularly those needing formula, at serious risk. And we currently have 138 infants on formula, over 50 who rely on specialized formula because of medical necessities. The good news, if there is any to be had, is that our public health division is financially stable and can sustain WIC staffing in the near term, even if federal funds were to be paused. Staff will continue serving clients, providing formula, and preparing for full program restoration once funding resumes. So the resolution before the council tonight authorizes targeted budget adjustments so we can quickly direct funds to local food providers or purchase infant formula if federal resources lapse. The resolution was reviewed by the city attorney as well as the finance department, and it complies with both state law as well as our city charter. If local funds are to be used, if that becomes necessary, reimbursement from the federal government is possible if certain conditions are met, primarily that funding is later restored, and we continue to follow WIC guidelines, which we'll be diligent about. Public Health is also preparing backup eligibility and verification processes, ensuring that families are served without duplication or gaps in coverage. Communication with affected families would happen through the WIC app, text messages, and healthcare partners, and outreach will be done in coordination with Hennepin County, the Minnesota Department of Health, and the office, locally, the Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, to reach immigrant and low-income families. So if the resolution is passed tonight, Mayor and members of the council, I would continue to provide this body with regular updates on fund usage and community impact. I do want to compliment our city staff for identifying an approach that balances fiscal discipline, sustainability, and equity, while ensuring that during this period of federal uncertainty, Bloomington remains a community that takes care of its residents. And we're happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Council, questions on this? Councilmember Rivas.
I'm just wondering, will this be temporary or let me rephrase the question. Would these funds be only allocated in the event that the federal government doesn't open, right? But if it does open before November, they will be returned to the general budget.
Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Rivas, you are right. I would describe this as contingency planning on the event of staff. What the council is being asked to consider tonight is authorizing the use of these funds, but staff will treat this as a measure of last resort. First and foremost, we're going to hope the federal government reopens. You may have seen today the state authorized $4 million towards this program. Certainly we're competing with statewide for those dollars, but we would obviously compete for those. This measure tonight is then kind of the break glass in case of emergency approach.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lohman and Councilmember D'Alessandro. Councilmember Lohman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for putting this together so quickly. Given we don't have a lot of time to do this, and so understanding that. So from a long-term perspective, has staff thought about what this looks like if we need to go further into sometime next year with this? And are we? That's kind of my first question in terms of what does this look like long-term? If we have to break the glass, what happens after that? And then I got another couple of questions for you.
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Lohman, to your question, yes. I'm really proud to see that our finance, law, and health department have really shown strong levels of cross-departmental coordination in such a short period of time on this. So finance team was able to do some financial forecasting and modeling. I would say intermediate term, this probably would not carry us through a full calendar year, but would carry us into next fiscal year for some period of time. I don't think, though, that we can rely upon this as a sustainable measure, multi-year process. This is strong financial management that has allowed some surplus funds to be available here towards the end of the fiscal year, that if we need to break that glass, we would have it carrying into next year. But I would not recommend relying upon this as a multi-year financial strategy, more of a one-time use of resources in an extraordinary circumstance.
And one question I know that we'll get is, given that we are kind of the fiscal agent for both Richfield and Edina, and the fact that we are taking these dollars out of our strategic fund, I know it's a kind of a placeholder. Could you just talk a little bit about that a little bit? And I know we may not have all the details worked out, because this is kind of a placeholder, but I just want to be really clear so that folks understand, what that means in terms of our relationship with both Richfield and Edina when it comes to this particular, because we're taking it out of our strategic priority funds.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Lohman, if I could utilize the expertise of staff. There's some nuances associated with these dollars that's very important because of the Tri-City services that we're providing. Perfect.
Mayor, council members, thank you. Dr. Kelly is on the line too. I'm going to ask him I'm still new here too, so he has a little bit more of the nuance he can explain.
Dr. Kelly, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. As the city manager articulated, we have been able to navigate this current year. And with support from the three cities, we're able to navigate the WIC side and the formula end. The putting resources towards our local food establishments and support for that would be more of the strategic direction from the council, and that would be supporting that work from that Bloomington angle. The WIC formula and managing ours, we would be managing it under our normal budget process with the contributions from the three cities.
And then finally, if we could just talk about direct assistance to what does the staff understand about that? And can you talk a little bit about that? What does that mean? How can we support and how can we help and assist folks? And I know you talked about it in your opening, so I just want to be really clear about what we can and can't do with this circumstance.
Mayor, Councilmember Lohman, I'm going to ask Dr. Kelly again to speak specifically to that, but at a high level, one thing I do want to make sure I articulate. As I said, tonight is about authorizing the potential usage of these funds. If we do have to draw down upon them, what you'll see staff do is develop a formalized procurement process so we can figure out the distribution of those funds in an equitable manner and with partners that can be depended upon to help us do that. But we're not at that place quite yet. But I'll ask Dr. Kelly to sort of speak to your point exactly, Councilmember Lohman.
Dr. Kelly?
Mayor, Councilmember Lohman, what we would be doing is operating something what I'm kind of equating to WIC Light. We would not be able to provide the food support that WIC normally provides with the benefits added to individuals' cards. Our priority would be making sure the babies in our community that are receiving support through the WIC program do not have a lapse in formula. And so we would be prioritizing making sure that formula is not disrupted to the infants and the babies in our community that are being supported through the WIC program. And our regular clinic appointments we'd be doing under WIC, we would be doing the additional counseling and nutrition support and lab work as normal, with some additional support of referring individuals to different parties or partners in our community that have food resources to try and make sure that the gap in the food resource is mitigated as much as possible, but our focus is on formula.
Councilmember D'Alessandro and then Councilmember Carter. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I want to say thank you to staff for thinking through this and trying to be proactive about putting something in place that will guarantee support for these folks. It's really important. So thank you for that. My question is, what I want to be sure we're doing well, I don't have any reason to believe we won't, but I want to put it on record, is that we need to make sure that if we're talking about granting, just funds to people to go get food support and things like that, I'm all for it. But I also want to make sure that the people who are providing that food support are vetted resources that we can count on, so that we don't have a situation where, anytime you start to release block grants of funding, you can find opportunities for fraud. And I don't want us to be caught up in a web of that like other places have had with the state, especially with COVID funding and everything like that. So we just want to be really, that we know the people that we can trust. And let's make sure that we're counting on them to help us, and that somebody out of the woodwork doesn't show up and we give money to them and then we find out that they're not legitimate or whatever. So that would be the only comment I would make. I think it's just important to say that, given the fact that we've had some situations in our state where that has not been the case. Hopefully we have plenty of time between now and November 1st to sort that list and get it right, and they're trusted partners we know we can count on. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Carter.
Thank you, Mayor. So first I want to say thank you to staff for putting this together so fast. It's kind of unbelievable to me that we're in this position. Not kind of unbelievable, it is unbelievable, but so thank you for doing this. I will just add to Councilmember D'Alessandra's point. We have some amazing, reliable partners in Bloomington, Veep, Loaves and Fishes. There's several others. I echo, and I'm not concerned, really, because we have such great partners. So I wanted to ask about, I understand needing to prioritize the resources that we have available, and specifically what I heard is we are prioritizing formula for those who need it. I am curious about pregnant women who are eligible for WIC and why they would not be included, because that's also babies. And I guess I'm just kind of curious how those decisions were made.
Sure. Dr. Kelly, do you want to take that?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Carter, we kind of went down that road with looking at the available resources we had and opportunities to, we recognize that pregnant individuals may have some additional challenges accessing some food resources if WIC benefits are restricted. But there are opportunities with partners to try and mitigate that. And in conversations with partners, access to formula is a challenge for many of our partners that provide food support. And so that felt like a space where we could step in and manage the formula end and work with partners to try and make sure that we help maintain or increase access to individuals that are pregnant or immediately postpartum.
Okay. And then the state funding that is going to become available, does that have limitations as well, or is that, are we going to be able to use those resources for kind of more traditional WIC support?
Dr. Kelly or Mr. Walker?
Dr. Kelly, I'll defer to you and your expertise here for council.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Carter. We'll have to get back to you with specifics on what the governor's allocation process looks like. I have not seen those yet.
Okay, thank you. I have lots of other questions, but I can ask them offline. I will say overall, I am very supportive of this. I will also say, just being on different community groups and including Facebook, as much as I hate Facebook, but it's really heartwarming to see how our community is rallying. There's lots of people having lots of conversations around how they can support. So I'm, again, very happy that the city is figuring out, the best way we can leverage resources and maximize those to fill the gap during this time. So I will be supporting, and I hope that we don't have to use the resources. I hope that they can just go back into the general fund. But we need to have an emergency fund during this time to make sure that babies are not going out without formula who need it, and that we can support our community partners who are also experiencing increasing demand. And it's much harder to get resources. I work for a nonprofit. It's tough to get grants right now because all nonprofits are feeling the squeeze and feeling the pinch. And so, I'm going to be supporting.
Councilmember Rivas.
I just want to piggyback on Councilmember D'Alessandra's comments. Absolutely, we should vet everybody out there before we grant any grants. Thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. First, I just want to disclose, because this does talk about grants to food-based organizations within the community. Councilmember Carter mentioned one of VEEP, and so people should know that I am on the board of VEEP, and I want people to be aware of that. I was actually at a meeting with them that started at 5 o'clock tonight and came from there. And it's a tough situation. They did make some budget adjustments. I recused myself from that vote in order to avoid any actual or appearance of a conflict of interest. What we're talking about tonight, does not specifically allocate any money to VEEP, so I will provide comments on that. But if we were to do that, I would have the same propriety towards the city of Bloomington. I don't want that appearance of a conflict there, but I support what they do. We all know they're a great organization, but they're hurting, to be honest. I mean, it's not just the SNAP, it's the fact that the food that they get has been, the federal funding for it has been cut by over 50%. I would like to thank one of our great Bloomington companies, Thermo King. They did 2,500 food packs, which are emergency food assistance for people. VEEP is looking at, they're expecting at least a 25% rise in needs starting when this SNAP thing goes into effect, where people can't use SNAP benefits to go buy food. They still need food from somewhere. They're hurting. So to anybody out there that can help, to any of our corporations in the community that can help, they need the help. And not just them. Like every food organization within the region needs it. I just happen to be on that board one and have that information. There's other ways that we might be able to help in terms of distribution. They're concerned that they don't have the capacity with that increase that they can do it. So they're looking for sources and places that they can have those food packs and things like that. I believe that Nativity of Mary is one, Darul Farouk is another, that they're looking at expanding those opportunities to get that food out there for people. But it's not a good situation for the most in need in our community, and I think it would be absolutely tragic to not support this, and I would support this, and if necessary, more. I mean, we talked about priority-based budgeting. If this isn't a priority, what is? You know, seriously. So, again, we're not allocating direct aid to VEEP in this motion, so I will be participating in this, but if we did, I would step aside in that conversation. But it is absolutely potentially urgent, or maybe they'll get their act together and not shut down, end the shutdown. You know, that could happen too. So anyways, I appreciate all the comments of my colleagues and the support for this. We got to support babies. We got to support the mothers. We got to support those of low income that need help. And, you know, these are a lot of times people that are working. And one of the other interesting side effects that they're looking at is a lot of these people may actually be people that are working for the government that have to still go to work but not get paid. So air traffic controllers, TSA, things of that nature, where they're required to work but not get paid. So anyways, that's all the comments I have. I think we're there. I think it looks like everyone supports this. And to the point of the fraud, I think absolutely let's look at our established organizations in that process and going forward. We don't need to come up with new stuff here. There's people that know how to do this.
Yes, exactly. Councilmember Carter.
I was just going to offer to make the motion.
I would appreciate you making the motion.
Okay.
Please.
Before I do, I will say to Councilmember Nelson's point about if there's more that's needed, that we should have that conversation. So if we are hearing from clients, pregnant women, women with babies, that they are not able to get the food resources that they need through our partners and others, that like we should hear about that. We should know about that so we can have those conversations. So I would move a resolution making alterations to the approved budget and authorizing use of funds for nutrition assistance and food shelves.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Carter, second by Councilmember Mua, moving the resolution making alterations to the approved budget and authorizing use of funds for nutrition assistance and food shelves. Any further council discussion on this? Hearing Councilmember?
No, sorry, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hearing no council discussion on this? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I want to echo thanks to our Public Health, our legal team, our administration for pulling this together. I know it was very quickly done, but it does look thorough and it looks well vetted, and I appreciate that, and appreciate this is, I mentioned earlier, it's a team sport, and this is another example of this. This is taking care of people who absolutely need it at the worst of times. So thank you for your work on that. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Council, we're going to move on to item 5, our organizational business. No action required on any of these. These are information and feedback. And item 5.1 is an update on the Hennepin County Nicollet Avenue Street Reconstruction Project. Mr. Simons is here to lead us off, and we're going to learn a lot about this. Good evening. Welcome.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here just to give a quick introduction. We have Emily Goodell with Hennepin County, a project manager for this Nicollet Avenue Street Reconstruction Project, here with us tonight, as well as Nikki Farrington from SEH, the consultant team. City staff's been working closely with this team on this project. It's a Hennepin County-led project, but Emily has a presentation for you here tonight, so I will turn it over to Emily to give you guys some information on the project.
Good evening. Ms. Goodell, welcome.
Thank you. All right, as Bob mentioned, my name is Emily Goodell. I'm an engineer with Hennepin County and the project manager on the Nicollet Avenue Reconstruction Project in Bloomington. Today we'll be giving you an update on the project in general. I'll also give a summary of the public engagement that's taken place so far. I'll be sharing the safety enhancements and presenting the multimodal alternatives that we looked at for this project, and finally touch on project funding and next steps for this reconstruction project. First, a little bit of background. This project extends from East Old Shakopee Road by Kennedy High School up to American Boulevard. So this is about a 2.3 mile long reconstruction project. And as you can see in this slide here, this is the existing configuration on the roadway, which includes a center left turn lane, 2 travel lanes, 1 in each direction, on-street bike lanes, and sidewalks immediately adjacent to the roadway. A couple items to note here. There's about 2/3 of the corridor has a 66-foot right-of-way width, making it a fairly constrained section of roadway to be able to fit all of the enhancements that we're discussing in. Also want to note that the daily traffic volume reaches up to 10,200 vehicles per day. Just wanting to drive home the fact that this is an important corridor in the Hennepin County and City of Bloomington transportation network. So we kicked off this project a little over a year ago in July of 2024. Since then, we've been meeting monthly with our project partners, including the City of Bloomington, Metro Transit, and our design consulting team. We've hosted 3 phases of public engagement, which I'll give more background on in the next few slides. And then looking ahead, we're looking at final design beginning in 2026 in preparation for construction in 2027. Our first phase of public engagement took place in March of this year, and in this phase, we took the project overview, timeline, and goals out to the public to get input on and understand what their priorities on the corridor are. So we presented the current corridor conditions as well as some traffic analysis, and then we also asked for feedback on what's working on Nicollet Avenue and what's maybe not working for us to start the project on. We hosted an in-person open house. We also had an online survey and 3 pop-up events throughout the community. And some of the feedback we received from these events included a call for safer crossings near Kennedy High School and at busy intersections. There were concerns about speeding near American Boulevard and Old Shakopee Road. We also heard support for improved bike and pedestrian connections to key destinations, and finally a call for accessible sidewalks for all on this corridor. We took that into our second phase of public engagement, which took place this summer. At this point, we shared a toolbox of potential improvements with the public. This included multimodal alternatives as well as intersection treatments. And again, we included another open house, online survey, and 4 pop-up events with the community.
We also did a business owner outreach with a virtual office hours with the county for any business owners who are interested in learning more about the project. Through this round of engagement, we heard more support for providing off-street bike facilities, support for adding green space in the boulevards. Also, we did hear some people supporting reconstructing Nicollet Avenue as is in the current typical section. And one of the biggest concerns that we were hearing from residents was about losing yard space and parking in their driveways due to right-of-way acquisition. So with that, we took that into our final round of public engagement in the preliminary design segment of the project. We just wrapped this up this month, and in this phase, we shared some options that we removed from consideration on the project, which include on-street bike lanes and roundabouts. We also shared 2 corridor alternatives for the multimodal component of the project, the first being a shared use path on one side of the road with sidewalk on the other side of the road, and the other being one-way bikeway pairs with sidewalks on both sides of the roads. Similar to other rounds of engagement, we had an open house, online survey, and several community pop-up events. And we also met with Kennedy High School with their administrative staff and facility staff to understand how they're using Nicollet Avenue outside of Kennedy High School. So overall, what we heard from community members on this is that there is support for a shared use path on one side of the road with the sidewalk on the other side of the road. And I'll also note that from property owners who are directly on Nicollet Avenue, there was a strong preference for the option that included the shared use path on one side of the road. As far as what we heard from residents making their decision between the 2 options was that the property impacts and the costs of the project were most important to them. We also heard concerns regarding potential speed differentials between cyclists and e-bikes with a shared use path, given that people will be walking and using that at lower speeds with others going at higher speeds. Finally, we had a few miscellaneous comments about clarifying maintenance responsibilities, some lighting comments, and support for additional tree plantings in the boulevards. Also want to share some of our intersection treatments that we've been working through as a team. So as I mentioned before, roundabouts were dismissed from consideration on this project. So we are proposing traffic signals at each of the existing signalized intersections, with the exception of 84th Street. Through our traffic analysis, we found that 84th Street was not warranted for a signal. So we are recommending stop control on the side streets there due to that not meeting the traffic warrants to retain a signal. I'll also add on this graphic, you'll be able to see a handful of pedestrian median refuges throughout the corridor. This is a place that will allow for some traffic calming with a raised median in the middle of the road, and also allow pedestrians to cross the road in 2 stages rather than having to look both ways and cross all lanes of traffic. We also are including removal of some free right slip lanes that are on this roadway, including at 95th Street, 90th, and 86th Street. The purpose of this is to get cars to slow down at the intersection and not be able to take that right turn quite so fast. Still be able to have their right turn, but it'll just be a little bit slower to help with the pedestrian safety aspect of the project. 83rd Street, we're showing a closed median. I'll touch on that a little bit more in a future slide. And then also want to note that we are showing transit stops on this graphic, and it looks probably a little different than what you're used to right now. We're working with Metro Transit, and they are looking at consolidating stops on this roadway. So overall, we're generally trying to pair our intersection treatments where there are transit stops for Route 18 planned. All right, and then we took all of the technical analysis that the team's been working on over the last year and the public feedback from the several rounds of engagement and have, as a project team, let's say, suggesting the shared use path on one side to carry forward with as the preferred alternative. So you can see it kind of in a typical section view here. This includes a 3-lane section that there is today, but it takes the bike lanes off the road and reallocates that space to allow for some boulevard space and also a shared use path with a sidewalk. A couple notes on this alternative. This does require less permanent property acquisition than other alternatives that we looked at on this project. It also allows for a little bit more space for boulevards and trees, just because there's a little bit less pavement than some of the other options. And it is a lower construction cost than the other options that we looked into. So with that, there's 3 key locations that I wanted to point out as part of this project. The first being up at the north end of the project near American Boulevard. Currently, there are 2 through lanes going southbound from American Boulevard here, but they're very short and terminate. The second one terminates right after the intersection. We heard from a lot of residents that there were complaints of speeding and unsafe merges in this area. So we're proposing extending that second through lane as far as we can, basically to about the McDonald's entrance up there, to allow for travelers to have more time to make a smart decision in terms of merging or deciding what lane they need to be in. And as I mentioned before, I wanted to take a look at 83rd Street here. So 83rd Street is currently an offset intersection. We are proposing putting in a median through this intersection, which would change existing access today from a full access to a right in, right out on this side street. The reason that we're looking at this is that because these are offsetting intersections, if 2 travelers are turning left from opposite directions, that movement would overlap, which presents a safety risk for that consideration. And the trade-off there then is the right in, right out. And then the last location I wanted to point out with this presentation is near Kennedy High School by Old Shakopee Road. So currently there are 2 lanes of travel in both directions on this roadway in this section. We are proposing narrowing that down to 1 lane of travel in each direction and adding, introducing turn lanes to handle the added capacity and needs for the school at school drop-off and at any events that are needed. And as part of the considerations for deciding on a preferred alternative, we did do a preliminary cost estimate. We're still early on in the project, so this is certainly concept level, but the preliminary costs are coming in at about $26.4 million for this entire project. We are anticipating cost participation from the city of Bloomington to follow our cost participation policy that Hennepin County has. And with that, generally we're looking at about a 25% cost share on this project from the city. And finally, looking ahead to some next steps, as I mentioned before, we're looking at beginning final design at the beginning of 2026, with right-of-way acquisition starting shortly after throughout the duration of 2026. We are planning to come back to council with a cooperative agreement at our 60% design milestone, which will likely be in the middle of next year. And then, as mentioned before, construction would start in 2027, if according to plan, if everything goes according to plan. And then I also included the project website link in here if there's any more information that you'd like to see. We've been posting along the duration of the project, but I included my contact information if you have any questions. But with that, if you have anything for me now, I'm happy to answer.
Well, thank you for the update, and thanks for the work that has obviously gone into this. You could see the progression through the 3 community engagement opportunities, and I do like the outcome. I especially like separating the sidewalks from the traffic with the boulevard, and trees in there are great. Anything is better than the last pictures that you just showed, where the sidewalks literally bumping up against the through traffic in the street. So I do appreciate that, and I think it looks like a strong design. So thank you for that Council questions. Councilmember Mua, and then Councilmember Carter, then Councilmember D'Alessandro. Councilmember Mua.
All right, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, Emily. This is really relevant for me because I just drove on Nicollet right before council, going up to Culver's for a school fundraiser, and I saw literally everything you just talked about. I'm particularly interested in the 83rd Street setup because as I was going out there, a bus moved to the middle lane, turned it on, and there's another car coming to turn left going south. And so I think that's a good call for safety, especially around transit and students. And then also American Nicollet. I'm particularly interested in the in and out with that holiday. As I got up to that intersection, it was jam-packed, multiple cars lined up to get out of the holiday, and it just was a chaotic environment to get out of there. So I'm interested to see if you're going to do anything with the in and out of that holiday, access to that gas station, just to make it a little more safe. And then two more things. Fire Station 1 is right there as well. I know Fire Station 1 is due to get updated in the next few years here. Just wanted to make sure we're going to be collaborating on that we're not going to put this new road in and then we got to put the new station in, then rip things up to redo it all again. So any coordination and collaboration on that would be really appreciated. And then my last thing is just timing for school, right? It's already a busy intersection, kids driving every which way. Want to make sure that we're timing this to make sure that that section at least is going to support school and when kids are back in the fall and as they're leaving in the spring. So thank you.
Councilmember Carter.
Thank you. I think this is awesome. I appreciate all the community engagement that was done. I have heard frequently when I've been out door knocking, being in an at-large seat, I door knock all across the city, and I have heard from people on the east side, like, why don't we have like beautiful roads like Normandale on the west side? And I feel like this is moving us in that direction. With the trees and the boulevards and then having the multimodal pathways, I think it's just definitely a huge step in the right direction. I'm excited to see this happen. I did have a quick question. Can you just tell me a little bit more about conversations that have happened related to the 494 project and then this happening at the same time? We have concern, I think I can say we, but we've had a lot of increased traffic on the city roads in Bloomington because of the 494 project. And so I guess I just have concerns about the overlapping timing and how that will impact people's ability to get around in Bloomington. So if you could just speak to that and what conversations have been had, that'd be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. Mayor, council member, thanks for the question. We are working with members of the 494 project in coordination with our project. So the 494 bridge replacement over Nicollet or at Nicollet Avenue is scheduled for construction coming up in 2026, and we are looking at constructing this project starting in 2027. So we do anticipate that the work being done directly on Nicollet Avenue with the 494 project would be complete by the time the construction for the Nicollet Avenue reconstruction project starts. And in addition, I'd say we are planning on tying in our project in line with what is proposed at 494 to avoid overlapping work between the projects.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. And then my last thing I'll say, and I've plugged this recently, when you design the shared use path, as much as possible, when we have the driveways that the path goes over, to just clearly indicate that it is a multimodal path. Something that I've seen recently is like in St. Louis Park where they have the bright green striping. So it's very obvious to cars that it's a bike path as well, and we don't have that in Bloomington, to my knowledge, and I would love to see us start to have things like that. So I would just plug that for this project.
Thank you.
Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nice dovetail from Councilmember Carter's point. I'm confused, I guess, about, I can't envision what that shared use path looks like when it gets to intersections. And the concern that I have, although I understand everybody's desire to have that in terms of, I love the fact that it's less cost. I love the fact that it's less, right-of-way, concerns for residents on the avenue. But I love the trees. I always love the trees. But now it's harder to see when you have bikes on that path. And if somebody's going to turn right onto something or turn left and they can't see because the boulevard trees are in between their line of sight and the shared use path, how does that work? And so, not that you need to answer that for me today, but I would like us to make sure that we're not solving one problem and creating a massive other problem, which is, people who are walking or biking on those shared use paths are now harder to see because of where we've put it. Because that would kind of it just would defeat the purpose of the point, right? Give them all more access to bike and pedestrian transportation, and then put them in danger. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So I can't see that in the descriptions. So I'd like, as we get through design, for us to be paying attention to that. And if it means, to Councilmember Carter's point, we're a lot more clear about where these crossings are happening, including lighting and including the opportunity for right of way at certain points, et cetera. I don't know. I don't think I've seen it in the Twin Cities. Maybe we have it somewhere, but there are places. Well, I guess downtown we do, places where bikes have an opportunity to go, and then cars have an opportunity to go, and they're very distinctive and they're very different times and everything else. And it's just other things like that we might want to make sure that we're including in this if we're going to dedicate it that way. The other thing I think I would say for council, just in general, is that, just because somebody said something about it, is we should, as a council, make sure that we're being clear about, like, if an electric bike is on a bike path, it can't go above a certain number of miles per hour, versus if it's on the road, then it's got a different set of parameters, right? Because those things are different, and we should care about that a lot. My motorcycle goes a different speed than my bicycle for a reason. And we're crossing a lot of boundaries there and making it harder for people to understand when they're not expecting something to go 15 miles an hour on a sidewalk. So just something for our note as we think about this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Actually, I think we dipped our toe into the e-bike conversation last time, so we did. Councilmember Rivas.
I happen to drive. Thanks for being here this evening. I happen to drive a lot in that area. That's my district. And I see a problem not only on Nicollet, but on Portland as well, where we reduce from 2 lanes of traffic on each side to 1 and the center. On numerous occasions, quite often, people pass me because I drive at the speed limit. People pass me on the center lane, speeding like crazy. I wish BPD would be there at that point, but usually it's, they happen to go by a couple of minutes after or so. But I've seen the pictures of American Boulevard, where the 4 lanes and all the trees around it. That would be more adequate, and that's what I would dream of. Not only there, but Portland Avenue, Lindell. I know it's probably out of the question because of the funds. If we add more trees, it's beautiful, but the lighting doesn't work as well. On Councilmember D'Alessandro's point. To me, I lean on that 4 lanes traffic, 2 on each side. We lost that. The bicycle traffic that I see personally in that area is not. I don't think it calls at this moment to have dedicated bike lanes, to be honest with you. I bike occasionally. I'm getting old, so I don't do it as often as I used to. So, to me, is the emphasis on bicycles all the time when we don't really see the community utilizing bikes to transport themselves to work or whatever the case may be. What I see is a lot of children underage cruising on bikes at all times. So I just question the emphasis on having bicycle lanes when the reality is that if you at any time go and stand there all day for 8 hours, you're going to see maybe a couple of bicycles throughout the day. And the traffic gets a little out of hand because now everybody's going onto 1 lane. Another street that is very dangerous is 92nd and Nicollet. There's an apartment building in there, and when you're trying to turn left into 92nd to go towards Lindale, A lot of people are trying to get into that apartment building, and when they come at 35 miles an hour or faster, and they jump into the center lane to turn left into that apartment building. Some people that are already trying to merge into that lane, the turning lane, find themselves in a situation that could be, major accident, I guess, if both of them are going at 35. So I think we're just dropping the ball and not paying attention to a lot of the details. You have to drive that area constantly to see and have a better evaluation to design the streets in there. Nicollet, whether there's construction on 494 or not, it's busy. It's always been, and so is Portland. And it isn't fun when somebody flies by on your left. And it happens a lot. Not just to me. I guess if a lot of the people that drive there will come over here and have their voice heard, they will have the same thoughts that I have. So, to me, it is worth it. It looks beautiful on the pictures. As Councilmember Carter mentioned, I want to see the east side looking as nice as the west side. But I want it to make sense. And to me, everything that we're always pushing, the bicycles, maybe on the west side you see a lot more. And I witnessed that as well. Sometimes I get off 494 and come on the streets because I don't want to drive through the mess in there, right? And I see that. Over there, there's a lot more people biking, but here, you don't see that. It's just, I think the bike lanes are totally unnecessary on the east side. But that's just my opinion. I live on that side. I drive all the time, and I have had the opportunity to do that a lot all day now because I haven't been working since I had surgery earlier this year. And I don't think we need bike lanes on that side of the city, at least for now. So, I would like to see a different design. Some of it makes sense, having the bicycles run on the sidewalks. In California, that's how it goes. Bicycles go on the sidewalks. And all the sidewalks have the little ramp to go on and off. It makes perfect sense. I don't remember ever back there seeing a lot of bicycle on pedestrian accidents. You learn to communicate when you're behind them. But that's just my 2 cents to it. The project looks great on the picture. I mean, I would love to see that, but at the same time, bicycle lanes, I don't think we need them in there, at least for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and it's a good thing that the design eliminates bicycle lanes. It takes it to an off-street bicycle facility. So that, to your point, Councilmember, that will eliminate bike lanes on the street. So the design will make sense. Council, any additional questions here? Thank you very much. And now the timeline, will you be back with us again before it all starts, I'm assuming?
Yes, we will plan to come back later next year, probably mid-year, with a cooperative agreement as design has progressed further.
Good. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Council, we'll move on to item 5.2, and I'm going to take note that it is now 8:17, and we still have, I think, 4 presentations. We've got the American Boulevard Transit Study, and then I think 3 different presentations within our budget discussions. I'd ask that we maybe tighten up our comments and focus a little bit and make sure that we're not here too late. I don't want to rush our budget discussion, and I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity, but I also don't want to be here until 11 o'clock tonight. So we will move on to item 5.2. Our review of the American Boulevard Transit Study. I see Kirk Roberts, and you must be Ms. Hall from SRF.
I am indeed. Thank you.
Very good. Welcome.
Can we put the presentation in presentation mode? Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Thank you for having us tonight to talk to you about the American Boulevard Transit Study. Kirk and I will present together. I'll go first, though. So we were last in front of you in December of last year. So I'll do a little refresh on why the city did the American Boulevard Transit Study. And it was really prompted by sort of a vision of what this corridor could be
knowing that 494 is under construction and is changing and is going to have more capacity to carry cars, it was kind of an open question about, does American Boulevard still need to act as a reliever to the freeway, or can it be a different type of street for the community? So there were 3 components to this study. One was to consider the opportunity for bus rapid transit, or BRT on American. Another was to identify community priorities that would help us set a vision for what the street could look like. And the third part was about real estate redevelopment along American Boulevard, land use change to help facilitate the kind of redevelopment that the city might want to see along an important corridor like this. So just to refresh on where we studied, we covered all of American between the Normandale Lake District and the South Loop District, also, of course, including the Penn American District. So 3 major target areas for development in the city, all connected by American Boulevard. We did a real focus during the study between France Avenue and 24th Avenue. I wanted to recognize also the existing transitway service that crosses American and in a short segment on the D line runs on American. So, there's an Orange Line station at Knox and American in that Penn American district. There are D line stations at Nicollet and Chicago Avenues on American itself. And then there are Blue Line stations, several in the South Loop. And then Blue Line, D Line, and Red Line all, of course, terminate at the Mall of America, along with several other local routes. In addition to the transitways on America, or crossing on and on American Boulevard, there's also local service, bus service, that runs all day long, every 30 minutes on American Boulevard. And this was an increase in service that Metro Transit made this summer. Previously, the Route 542 ran just during peak periods, and it ran hourly, and now it runs every half hour all day long. Earlier this year as well, Southwest Transit started running another local route on American Boulevard, the Route 686, and that route runs hourly on American. So altogether, combined, Metro Transit and Southwest Transit are running 3 trips each hour on American Boulevard. This is what transit ridership looks like in the city of Bloomington. That bright orange or yellow dot is over the Mall of America Transit Center. That is by far where the most boardings happen on buses and trains. And then those other purple areas all are transitway stations, whether Orange Line, D Line, or Blue Line. When it comes to American Boulevard itself, I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the condition of this corridor. It's quite wide. It's usually 3 lanes in each direction. Many of the busiest intersections have 2 left turn lanes. They also have slip lanes for right turns. And so at many of the crossings at the major intersections, a pedestrian has to cross 9 lanes of traffic to get from one side of the street to the other. So it's a long crossing. I might also mention at this point, too, that the sidewalks are right behind the curb, so there's no, boulevard or buffer at all between the street and the sidewalk. So just to summarize all the reasons for this study, the 494 prompt, of course, and then also some development occurring along American Boulevard and some changes and a desire to see and realize higher density uses along American in recognition of the transit investment that's been happening along the corridor, and then a recognition of an opportunity to change the character. And so the city saw an opportunity to consider the future of American Boulevard. To start the study, we did a round of public engagement in January, and some brave souls came out to visit us at an open house. We also got out on the Route 542 a couple of times. We had a survey, and we asked folks on the bus to respond to our survey. We also publicized the survey via Let's Talk Bloomington and had a really nice response. Some of the themes that we heard were that people would really appreciate dedicated space for transit, cyclists, and people walking.
People really valued improved safety and improved and new public space, including greenery. People value American Boulevard because it provides access to lots of places, which of course you all know living here. And that people get there a variety of different ways: walking, biking, riding transit, and of course driving. So after we heard from the public, we got into studying some routes, potential routes for bus rapid transit. We studied 4 different routes. They all terminate at the Mall of America, and then from there, Alternative 1 follows American and France Avenue to Centennial Lakes. Alternative 2 follows American and France up to Southdale Mall. Alternative 3 extends on American and then 84th over to Normandale Lake District. And then Alternative 4 is kind of unique, and it is an extension of the current Route 4, which is a local bus route that starts in northeast Minneapolis, comes through downtown, South Minneapolis and Richfield, and then today it ends roughly at Knox or Penn and American. And what we're proposing here is extension of that route along American Boulevard to the Mall of America and conversion of that route to BRT. So it'd be a big, long route for BRT. So what did we learn about these BRT routes? The route to Southdale and the route to northeast Minneapolis via downtown were the ones that performed best in our evaluation. We looked at a lot of different factors, but ones that emerged, of course, were connecting the most important destinations. And this incorporated some of the destinations we heard from in our survey about which were most important. The Southdale route did that well. I'll just call it Alternative 4, the Route 4 extension did that even better. Both routes served Bloomington residents likely to use transit. And what do we mean by that? One of the things we looked at early in the study was demographics across the city. In transit studies, we always look for zero-car households as indicators of folks who are more likely to use transit. We also look for low-income households, also as indicators of folks who are more likely to use transit. I don't think it's surprising to any of you, there are more of those households east of 35W, and so we felt it was very important for the BRT service to all at least make it to past 35W in particular. So both of these BRT options do that. They also both connect to the regional transit system in several locations, both to local bus as well as those transitways I pointed out earlier. And then the last one, building on a local route with established ridership. This is, of course, a nod to that Route 4, which has good all-day service today and has strong all-day ridership today as well. And we thought it made logical sense to connect it to one of our biggest regional destinations at the mall, along with all the other connections available there. So why invest in transit? We felt it was important to kind of go back to this bigger theme here for just a moment and come back to some of the values of the city of Bloomington. As a safe, fair, and affordable Bloomington, transit is an important component of that. Transit also enables a range of housing choices and options and growth and addition of residences without major changes to established neighborhoods. So redevelopment along a commercial corridor like American Boulevard to add density without having to change the character of, I think, what are very valued single family and lower density neighborhoods in the city. Focusing transit investment on a given corridor also can help with guiding land use and development in that corridor. And of course, I've heard many times the valued partnership between Metro Transit and the city of Bloomington and a desire to continue that, as well as with MBTA and Southwest Transit too, of course. So I'm going to move on now to the second component of the study, the land use evaluation. And this was really important. Why did we look at land use in this American Boulevard transit study? Land use and transit are just inexorably linked, right? The ridership on transit is really tied to how many people can live and work nearby and what kinds of uses are nearby that enable people to easily reach transit. Land use is also within the city's control, so while transit is a regional decision, land use and changing development patterns are under the city's purview.
Early on in the study, we heard a comment from a planning commissioner about American Boulevard as Bloomington's front porch. And this comment really resonated with the team as we were working through the study and thinking about, well, if this is the front porch, what are the land uses? What is the look and feel of this corridor if it's the front porch? And then finally, the comprehensive plan process is coming up in 2026. And so this study was seen as kind of a preparation for the comp plan. We looked at existing zoning and future land use, looking really for mismatches. Where does the future land use indicate that certain things could be built, but current zoning would not allow those? We looked at a land value to structure value. So that's looking at if there's a building built on a piece of land and the building is not worth as much as the land, that indicates usually that the site could be ripe for redevelopment and something new to come along. And so in turn, we use that process to identify those priority parcels for redevelopment. And then we put all of those together on a composite map. And I'll show that here briefly. The areas outlined in blue are those potential redevelopment priority areas. You'll see they're almost all filled in with red, and red were the parcels where the structure value was essentially the lowest. And sometimes it's because there's nothing built on that land or there's maybe a parking lot today. So lots and lots of these opportunity sites along American here. So some of the recommendations coming out of this study, there are current zoning regulations in your guide today that support transit-oriented development or a higher density development, but we suggested 2 new designations that are a little more specific: a higher intensity TOD that is closest to American Boulevard or closest to your transit corridors, allowing for the highest density uses along those, and then corridor-oriented development that kind of steps down the density as you get further off the corridor. This map shows that high-intensity TOD applied to all of those redevelopment sites. So you can see lots of pink opportunity on this map here. I'll keep things moving. So the other things that our land use part of the study touches on are things that aren't exactly about what each parcel, what each land use is, but all about how does that parcel get redeveloped? What does it look like? Things to guide that. Things like parking for both cars and bicycles, built form guidelines that dictate what buildings look like, not just what use they are. Guidelines about if a large block site redevelops, how do you make sure there's internal circulation on a site so it doesn't just feel impenetrable? And then, of course, the densities and uses. Public art does also get a mention as well. So this will translate into the comprehensive plan, and the planning team at the city is incorporating this into their next steps. Now, Emily just showed one like this for Lyndale, but this one is quite different. This one's for American, but these illustrations really are worth 1,000 words. So I'm going back a little bit to what we heard in public engagement. You'll see some of the features that we heard about showing up in this diagram. And one of them, of course, was greenery, shade, more kind of nicer public spaces, and you see the trees in the boulevards, in the medians for that reason. We heard a lot of excitement for better spaces and designated spaces for people walking and biking. So you see sidewalks on both sides of the street, of course, and then also those sidewalks are separated from the bicycle facility, which is also separated from the road. So you see that two-way bikeway, and that is intended to be very separate from the people walking. So you see there's that buffer, that 2-foot buffer in between. One feature of this concept is that it's 94 feet wide, which means that it fits in the footprint of American Boulevard today. It wouldn't require new right-of-way in any of the spots. In some spots, American is much wider than this. In some spots, it's right around 94 feet. And that helped make it a more cost-effective option, in addition to its ability to just move a lot of people through this space, because it allows for bikes to move, because it allows for pedestrians to move, because it allows the buses to move freely, and it has room for cars. The people, not the vehicle throughput, but the people throughput is much higher on a street like this. which you can imagine as it densifies becomes more and more important. The reason this has the title Preferred Concept for Testing is that we wanted to make sure it was understood that we did not do a traffic analysis as part of the study. So this is a vision and a communicated concept that reflects the community priorities, but it hasn't been tested in a traffic model to see what it would look like. I will say, though, by way of sort of understanding, is that street does have a similar annual average daily traffic to Lindale Avenue in Minneapolis, which just did go last year, I believe, to one travel lane in each direction. That's not the whole story, of course, right? There's a lot more to learn about how a street functions, and Kirk will get into that a little bit more. But it is not unheard of to carry that volume of traffic with just one travel lane in each direction. So to wrap up here with next steps, there's really three major next steps. One is that this study did its own examination of the potential for BRT on the corridor, but Metro Transit is, of course, the regional decision maker for BRT. So they are working through a study right now to identify the next generation of bus rapid transit corridors. There'll be the J, K, and L lines. And Kirk will talk a little more about that. And so the city will stay in touch with Metro Transit as that outcome of that study is known and next steps are put forward there. And then the city will begin programming your capital improvement program, timing it in conjunction with BRT investment to reconstruct the street in a way that makes sense for the transit investment. And then finally, the much nearer term action of updating the comprehensive plan and preparing for higher intensity development along the corridor. And with that, I'll turn it to Kirk.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Mr. Roberts,
Adele.
good evening.
Mr. Mayor, council members. In terms of an implementation, so Adele touched on the three major areas of the study. The first is transit, obviously. She mentioned the work that's going on in Metro Transit right now to figure out the next generation or the next arterial BRT lines that will roll out. We expect to hear back the results of that midpoint next year. So we'll know, for example, if that Route 4, the extension of Route 4 turns into a BRT line, and if we should start planning around to extend that out to the Mall of America, or if something else needs to be done. And that will sort of cue off what we do there. And we'll develop American Boulevard alternatives once we know some direction there. We'll also work in the meantime, though, to coordinate with potential partner agencies. Edina has an interest in transit service over in their city, and so can we talk to them and see if there's some win-win that they'd support there. So that's the next step on transit. Land use, as mentioned, it's a pretty easy one. We are going into the comprehensive plan update. These recommendations, once adopted by council, will make their way into that process. That work will wrap up in around the end of 2028, all said and done. Infrastructure is the last one, and I'm going to touch on this one a little bit. As you all know, 494 is under construction. It's going to be under construction for a very long time. As the construction moves to the eastern sides of the city, that will wrap up around 2030. There will be big dancing all over the city at the end of 2030. We should plan some parties. Why this matters is there's high traffic all over the northern side of the city. You have all heard about that directly from residents. And American Boulevard is the focal point of that additional traffic. And so right now, we can't do a lot with that. The state's doing some construction on American Boulevard itself as part of the 494 projects, and so it's just going to sit there. But the reason I mention this, when you're thinking about that infrastructure, the only really controversial part of this study was the cross-section that we looked at earlier. People look at this, they look at the volume of traffic that's on the roadway now with construction, the high volumes that have been there in the past, and they wonder what we're thinking when we talk about taking lanes out or reserving lanes for transit. And that's a really rational reaction that's respected. And so
the thing I want to emphasize is we didn't make this a preferred adopted cross-section. You shall implement this no matter what, but it's a cross-section to be studied. The reason is this cross-section represents the values of the community. This represents what we heard people want changed about that corridor. They want a corridor that works for everyone, not just vehicles. They want the vehicles to get through to serve the businesses that have invested in our community, but they also want space for transit. They just want it to be a nicer place. They want amenities for walking, for biking as well. That's what this represents. So when we go to these projects in the future, this is where we start those conversations. This is the cross-section we start to study. We might not be able to implement this. There are some sections of the corridor where we could probably implement this today. There are some sections of the corridor where we're only going to be able to get some components of this, and we might not only get down to one lane. We might have to have multiple lanes, especially across the intersection. But this reflects the values of the community, and it's where we start. So the one thing I didn't want to have to do now is, as those projects come online, traffic's going to start to moderate on American. It'll actually decrease. As density occurs in the future, we could see some increases there. Trying to project that, trying to predict that is really difficult. And so having long debates about how many lanes should we build right now, it's just not a useful way to spend time. So this is where we'll start for the future. That's where we'll go. So in terms of study adoption, the major work is wrapping up. We're writing the report now, and that'll be posted to the Let's Talk Bloomington page soon. We are going back to the Planning Commission on November 6th. The Planning Commission in the City of Bloomington is an advisory board on transportation issues to the council. We'll be seeking a recommendation of adoption from the Planning Commission, recommending the council adopt the study. That will happen as part of a public hearing on November 6th. We'll be back to the council on December 8th. Looking for adoption. We have two ways to do that. We can just add that to the consent calendar. That's going to be my recommendation. The study has not been that contentious or controversial. Most of the comments we've gotten are fairly supportive. We could also have this as a public hearing. Again, I'm recommending we just add this to the consent calendar and council adopts it. Hearing no protests from you tonight, that's the way that we'll proceed. Stand for questions.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the information. I will say, so the preferred concept for testing that you mentioned, if you take out the boulevard with trees in the middle, it looks very much like University Avenue from 35W all the way over to Huron. And you talk about, and it's brand new this year, just open. And Kirk, you talk about, it's too early to talk about these things and looking for evaluation. I think that's going to be a good proof of concept in terms of, it's certainly a much denser area there, but in terms of the single lanes of traffic in certain areas, the dedicated bus lanes, the separated bicycle lanes, separated from traffic, physically separated. It'll be good to see how it works. It'll be good to see how it all operates in a much more congested area. And it'll be good to see how it practically works. I'm thinking in particular with snow removal and how well it stands up based on what it's going to look like and how it's going to operate. So it's good we're not making the decision on exactly how it looks right now, because we've got a few years to at least look at some other options or other examples and see how they perform before we decide whether or not we want to head down that road as well. Councilmember D'Alessandro.
I have a very quick question, Mr. Mayor. So I know, Mr. Roberts, you're recommending that we put it on consent, but I'm not quite 100% sure I understand what it is going to be that is on the agenda. So what exactly is contained within the report that we would, such that we could make a decision to say, yeah, sure, put it on consent?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember D'Alessandro, the report, sure this is on. The report, we've just given you a brief highlight of the outcomes of the report, the study itself. We'll be asking you as part of the adoption process to adopt the report formally, and then it becomes, we can act on that report. So for instance, we can start to advance that towards the adoption in the comprehensive plan or inclusion in the comprehensive plan. We could start to do things with that study. That's what we're asking for when we ask for adoption.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm not sure where other folks on the council are. It seems like the only question that has been posed to us in terms of a point of view is whether or not we would put it on consent versus a public hearing. I don't know what the right answer is on that. I feel kind of sort of like getting planning commission's input on that might make some sense before we know. But adopting the study is one thing. It's another thing to say, yeah, go ahead and start to take action in comprehensive plan and everything like that as a result of the study. So I'm not 100% sure I know exactly what the results of our adoption decision would be. So I might lean towards having a conversation about it versus putting it just on consent, if that's an answer we need to give tonight. I don't know how the people feel about it. So thanks.
Other thoughts, Council? Councilmember Lohman?
I'll be brief. I got an email today about the lane stuff, so I'll join my fellow council member with that. I'd rather see it come back as a conversation.
Others? Bring it back on, rather than on consent, maybe have another conversation after we hear from the Planning Commission? I think that makes sense, right? All right. Any other questions or comments regarding the presentation? All right. Very good. Well, thanks much for being with us tonight, and thanks for the information. Item 5.3 on our agenda, Council, is our 2026 budget discussion, continuation, this focusing on public safety and legal. Council, I'm going to, looking at the clock on the wall, I'm going to make a motion that we extend our deadline to no later than 9:45 tonight. Give this discussion item plenty of time. We don't have to go to 9:45, but then we also don't have to rush to get this done. So I will move that we extend our deadline to adjourn no later than 9:45 this evening.
Second.
Motion and a second to extend the adjournment deadline to no later than 9:45. No further council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Carlson, welcome back. Good evening.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you for that extension. And police, fire, and legal budgets will be presented tonight. But before Fire Chief Uli Seal comes up here, I just wanted to take this opportunity to just highlight the rest of the budget sessions that will be at council, which will be every council meeting from now until the end of the year. But just talk a bit about at each one. So Monday, November 24th, there's going to be a budget presentation, but there will also be an opportunity for public comment that evening. And then on December 8th, that will be the Truth in Taxation public hearing. So obviously also opportunity for public comment. And then on December 15th, that will be a study session to discuss, for the council to discuss the final 2026 tax levy and budget. And then on December 22nd will be the date that the council will do the final approval. So just wanted to highlight that, and then I will turn it over to the fire chief.
Thank you for the update. Chief Seal, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening. All right. So, quick overview of the fire department's budget, where it's quickly overview structure and staffing, budget requests, priority-based budgeting analysis, budget highlights, emerging topics, and then time for discussion and questions. Our structure here is like many fire departments. We've really got two areas, fire code enforcement and fire prevention, as well as operations. And under fire code and enforcement, we've got fire prevention and fire investigations. And under operations, we have our firefighters split up into 3 shifts, staffing the stations that we can staff. We got training, and we have EMS as functions under operations. And then we have administration as well. That takes care of a lot of records management and administrative functions at the department level. The biggest change in our budget from this year to next year is in salary and benefits, and that's because we have 18 firefighters coming off SAFER grant coming onto our regular funding. So the priority-based budgeting analysis, several recommendations that were made are aligned with initiatives already in place. Staffing and cost allocation data need further refinement, and that's based upon some assumptions that the AI program made that aren't quite accurate for us. Comparison entities differ in size and capabilities, and that also limited direct comparability with Bloomington.
I can dive deeper on any of these if you need me to. Recommendations appear multiple times, which to me overstated the projected impacts that were being predicted. And the report relies on broad industry examples that don't really reflect both our financial and our organizational environment. So those are some of the things that we got out of that. However, going forward, we did find some opportunities for alignment and shared services and regional collaboration. We currently partner regionally for equipment and training, and expanding shared services for administrative or maintenance functions have some inherent limitations in it, both with how they were suggesting that it be carried out, but also gaining that kind of cooperation with multiple departments around us would be multi-year, multi-council, multi-difficulty endeavor. So strategic resource allocation and efficiency. Our administrative offices are pretty lean and are really structured to meet our department's mission right now. Really don't have much opportunity for reallocation there. My administrative staff is 2.5, and they take care of all of our records management, which we're going to do a little over 11,000 calls for service this year. So those 2.5 people, as well as running payroll for our part-time, and there's a lot they do. There's not much room for them to get put anywhere else. We partner across city departments, and I'd like to highlight a lot of this because I think we've got excellent working relationship with our city departments. But with police, both emergency response and emergency management, public works, emergency response and emergency management, as well as they actively seek input from us on street projects and street improvements, so we maintain access for public safety. Park and Rec, we partner with them with proactive wildland fuels management, where we do live burns for prairie restoration every year. IT, emergency response and emergency management, obviously, like most places, there's not much you can accomplish in today's world without IT support. Communications, public information and public notification, and then legal, finance, HR, community development, all of those departments we work very closely with, and while this city is a conglomerate, all of the lines of business have to work very closely together to make things work. So revenue generation, opportunities for revenue generation. Well, we have, as you well are aware, leveraged some grant opportunities in the last few years to the point of millions of dollars. Each year, those revenue opportunities are select, though, right? I mean, they're not something that we can depend on every year, which we have proven, but even though we've done very well at it. There are some opportunities we leverage revenue from. The Minnesota Board of Fire Training and Education is one of them, which provides reimbursement to the department every year for firefighter training, and we leverage that and get, in most cases, 2 allocations. They give every department a letter that says this is your allocation for this year, and that's around $29,000 to $30,000. And we submit all of our costs for training, and if not all the departments collect their allocations for the year, they do a second round allocation, and this year that second round allocation was over $100,000. So we track all of our costs, we submit all our costs where we can, and we get revenue where we can. And then our fire prevention and inspections revenue, that's built into our current system, as you well know. So cost savings or operational efficiencies. Several of the suggestions were about firefighter health and wellness. We have some distinct health and wellness programs with our firefighters. We give them all annual medical physicals, annual mental health checks. We have a peer support team within the department. We have a therapy dog. We have access to critical incident stress management teams, and we also have access to MinFire, which is a statewide program that provides resources for firefighters, both for cancer or significant or serious diseases, and as well as mental health. Performance metrics, I just wanted to talk us about some operational highlights here. Pre-model change, so I'm talking about 2021. We had about 4,700 calls for service that year, and you guys remember this discussion. We've had it before. I had 1,333 truck runs that were rolled short. That's with 1 or 2 people, and failed to rolls were 586. So those are in 2021, which you also remember was a nasty little bug was running around giving us problems in society as well. So post-model change, and I want to point out we're still in progress on that. We're still changing our model. Current calls for service, we're over 9,000 calls right now. When I put this slide together, we're at 8,929. We're about 9,500 right now. Still predicting around 11,600 for the year. And we only have 68 roll shorts, and that's usually because one or more of our firefighters are accompanying an ambulance to the hospital. So we drop an engine down to 2 for a short period of time. And we've got no fail to rolls so far. So we've improved, our metrics have improved greatly. And as part of those response metrics, we're down to 9 minutes and 15 seconds for our 90% number for time of call to a unit with at least 3 people showing up. In 2021, we were at 11 minutes and 30 seconds for that. So we've dropped several minutes off of that. That will continue to improve as we increase our staffing and are able to staff regularly Station 6 and staff Station 2, which is one of our primary goals. Right now, we're staffing 4 engines all of the time, 5 engines some of the time, and that 6th engine is not being staffed. Our goal is to staff 6 engines at 6 stations with 4 personnel 24/7. We also instituted a paramedic program and our advanced intervention by our crews so far, and that number, I got an updated number on that today, and we're over 1,000 advanced interventions on EMS calls since the first of the year. We also support our ALS transport system by providing medics to ride along and provide those, help provide advanced interventions. And then we've got SWAT medics that support our police counterparts as well. First Safer grant ends. Obviously, I spoke about this already next year, but it saved the city $6.2 million over the three-year life of the grant. It's been critical in allowing us to jumpstart staffing to provide service to the community. Second Safer grant still active till 2028, and it'll save the city an additional $6.9 million over the 3-year life of the grant. And our American Rescue dollars have been expended, and our 3 battalion chiefs are also coming on to our regular tax levy. There we go. Call volume continues. These are emerging topics for you. Call volume continues to increase. I expect that number to go up, especially if they continue to do things to Medicare, Medicaid that they're planning to do next year. And as we continue to see an erosion of support services to many portions of our community. People are going to wait longer to call for help because they either don't have access to insurance or they're worried about maybe their citizenship status being questioned. So they're going to wait longer, they're going to become more seriously ill, and they are going to also then become more of a burden on our hospitals and our system as that stands. I'll also point to our aging population and the Medicare, Medicaid issues that are going to come up, and that's going to same cycle there. They're going to wait longer to call for help. They're going to become more seriously ill, and they're going to become more of a burden on the system. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the built environment. It's becoming increasingly challenging, not in a bad way. That's part of becoming a more dense and populated city. But that does increase our calls for service, more people, more calls for service. Our structures are changing in how the city is composed. Contents continue to increase in heat release potential and spread of fire progression. That's because just about everything nowadays is made out of plastic. The density and access require more staff to meet that challenge, and technology continues to bring additional challenges, right? As they come up with these new electric vehicles, they have not shied away from parking them in underground garages with multiple stories of residential or hotels above them. So fire codes typically lag behind technological changes, and this is no different. So adequate staffing, 4-person crews and 6 stations is really important to us and important to the city long term. There's a couple other topics quickly to talk about, and that's the paid leave and parental leave programs that are happening. As we grant more people time off to adequately staff, we need more people to fill those positions. And wellness and mental health, physical and mental health are significant impacts in the fire service. Cancer currently is the #1 cause of duty-related deaths. Heart disease is a close second, but PTSD and suicide rates are rapidly rising and threaten to overtake those two unless we can try to disrupt that progression. However, we have implemented programs to try to address those risks. Talk fast.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Council questions? Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I was curious, as part of, I didn't see in the priority-based budgeting discussion or any synergies discussion an opportunity to look at outsourcing our fire inspections service. Has that ever been analyzed? And if so, why would we not do that?
Currently, there aren't that many private entities that will do that. And the most pressing point for me is that our fire inspectors are also members of our fire department. And while strict interpretations of the code are not always, do not always brightly, black or white, it is really about building buildings and enforcing codes in the city that protect life safety, as well as give firefighters an option or give firefighters the best options for providing protection in those buildings. So there are code amendments in process right now to build 4-, 5-, and 6-story apartment buildings with 1 stairwell to access all the floors. Fire service is dead set against us, but we've got quite a group of people that think this is a really good idea. And so I feel that our fire inspectors and our fire prevention division is really important to keep as an integral part of our department, because they are an important part for our operations folks to provide good service.
Councilmember Mua.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, no questions, but I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
I've been an ardent supporter of our fire department, continue to be, because I see the need. And last year I said I want to see it move faster. I'm going to say the same thing again this year. I want to see our fire department get up to staff. Literally 3 weeks ago at a kids sporting event, there was a medical incident. Thank goodness we have ambulances staffed at Station 2, and they were able to get to Westwood and be there within a couple minutes. But then I was like, you know what? I'm on council. I should pay attention to this stuff. And I was on my watch waiting to see when our firefighters show up. And it's that time, 9:30, just like you said. So our EMTs were able to get there within a couple minutes because they were staffed at Station 2. But we were pulling from the other side of the city, and it took us 9 minutes and 30 seconds to get a full truck to Westwood. And so we have the space, the ability, and I want to continue to move fast on this, invest in our fire department, because we know the need that you showed us, and I continue to see it every day. So until we're there, we're fully staffed, ready to go. I'm going to continue to support you and make sure that our fire department can do the job that the city needs us to do.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rivas.
Chief, I finally see it working, not working out, right? I just have a quick question. Since 2021, the EMS calls have almost doubled or more than double due to the aging community and access to medical services, right? So have you thought of aligning with the health department to help with the cost? And, or do you take the burden in your department alone all the time?
I think the healthcare system is burdened to its breaking point right now. There are not, to my knowledge, there are not pots of gold or pools of money around of anybody either offering that help or being able to provide that kind of assistance. The departments that provide ALS transport service, which we do not. We provide ALS engine service, but not ALS transport service, do not recuperate all the money they spend on that service. They're probably close to 70 cents on the dollar or 80 cents on the dollar, maybe, that they recuperate, which is going to change when they make changes to Medicare, Medicaid reimbursements. So I see more of this burden coming locally, not less. And I see our current hospital and healthcare system becoming more and more fragile because of the burden that's being put on it. So I don't see an out anywhere right now in any other partnerships.
Thank you.
Hate to be gloom and doom, but
I mean, you do have my support. I mean, I was curious.
yep, thank you.
Others? Councilmember Lohman.
Briefly, I was amazed at the 2.5 folks for administrative support. That seems difficult to sustain over the long term, given the changes of the department. They
work hard. There's no room for them to do anything else.
All right. Well, thank you.
You bet.
For that. I mean, that's just an example of how we really utilize our resources. I noted one last time we got together, but again, just thank you for your service, and I don't need to repeat what Councilmember Mua said, but I think you know my support's been there.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, Council?
I'll yield the floor to
Thank you, Chief Seal.
the guy with the gun.
I don't know who keeps setting this up for me to go after you, Lee. Mayor, City Council, again, thanks for having us here today. How do I do this? Oh, that's not mine. I could just ad-libbed it if this doesn't work for people. All right. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Kari Carlson for all the work that she's helped with our budget piece. She works some magic over here, and Deputy Chief Bitney for all the work that he's done on the budget also. All right, so overview here. I won't bore you with this. You all can read, so I'm just going to go into this, get right into it. This is our organizational structure here, and just for purposes of educating our new city manager here. The city of Bloomington, we are authorized for 129 cops. Minnesota has one of the lowest per capita police ratios in the country, so the city that you came from is authorized for 230, and you only got about 22 or 23,000 more people. This is my fourth budget presentation, and I didn't put the slide in here, but I'll say it again. Duluth, which is another regional department, has 157 cops. Rochester has 160 cops. We have 129 police officers authorized here at the Bloomington Police Department. But through your grace, we've been able to overstaff, so currently we have 138 police officers on board, but we got these were to hire people for anticipated retirements, and those retirements are starting now. So very shortly, we will be even Steven with staffing as people start to retire here. And also, I'll just say this, thanks to the citizens of the city of Bloomington, our crime rate is currently down 12% from last year, which will make this, last year was a record low crime year, and if this continues to hold, we haven't seen crime rates like this in decades in the city of Bloomington, so that's something that we should all be proud of. Here's our budget. Our main increase here is going to be staffing, but the biggest increases are going to come from materials and supplies.
Law enforcement equipment is not getting cheaper. We don't even have these radios on here yet, which people don't realize are very old. They've outlived their life expectancy. And a lot of these radios come from the 9/11 time when Homeland Security was giving grants for these radios. So this is not only a police issue, it's going to be a fire issue. And these are going to be very expensive to replace at some point. We're going to have to do it, but we'll try to work through it. But if you see here in our budget, the two biggest percentage increases that we have are for equipment and supplies. A lot of that's due to inflation. And again, our internal service charges. Now, this is from priority-based budgeting. The vast majority of these things that they gave us, we've already doing. We support the adaptation of new technologies and to improve efficiencies, and I'm going to get into that in a second. And the report, just like Fire said too, I think the people who did this had a hard time kind of understanding how Bloomington works and operates when it comes to finances for public safety. So we did find some opportunities for alignment, ongoing investment with innovative technologies aimed at improving efficiency and streamlining operations and delivering better services to the community. How are we doing this? We recently got a program called Force Matrix. One of the things in law enforcement that's been an Achilles heel for decades is having a program that could combine your databases. So if I have to deal with someone going to 5-6 different databases, can be very cumbersome. This new program, Force Matrix, basically takes all of our databases and makes it Google. So now we're just starting to roll that out to our police officers, which is going to save a whole bunch of time in our dispatch center and for our officers on the street. Benchmark Analytics, which is our program where we track all our training and employee misconduct if we have those types of allegations. And it's also our employee reward program. Lexapol, which is the electronic version of our policy manual, which really helps in efficiencies, and the phone tree that we implemented for our front counter, which allowed us, and this will be the next section, we had previously the police department ran 2 lobbies, one upstairs, one downstairs. We implemented a phone tree. We were able to close the lobby on the 2nd floor and reallocate that body to our community service unit to help answer phones for our social workers and therapists, as opposed to having to ask for another position. Technology allowed us to move that body without having to come to you and ask for another body. Another thing is Axon Translate. These body cameras now that we got translate into different languages. So now if someone speaks Spanish, Hmong, or Arabic, I turn this body camera on. The body camera listens to it, translates it to English for me, and then I speak, and then translate it back out into their language for them. So this also saves us time from not having to call the language line and whatnot. So that's really, technology has really helped us do a lot what we do here. Continuing funding opportunities. On average, we have about $2.3 million in grants and donations. We just got another $25,000 grant that will be, or a donation that we'll be bringing forth next week for our brain health program, but this amounts to about 6% of our annual operating budget we're able to get from grants and donations, which is a lot of money. Partnering with other law enforcement agencies for legislative initiatives. The one that I want to just get in your radar here as we move forward to the next session is our bomb squad. Bloomington has one of only 4 bomb squads in the state, and we currently have the largest, the biggest terrorist target threat platform is within our city of Bloomington. And obviously having a bomb squad set up for that is something that we need to do. The state has not funded the bomb squads adequately, so all 4 bomb squads are going to the state to ask for adequate funding for this, obviously because we don't have equipment. Our vehicles are getting old. So some opportunities for operational efficiencies. We're working with public health in our brain health unit, city engineering for our speed sign and data collection. We're partnering with IT for GIS, and Hennepin County for our embedded social worker. For the citizens out there who don't know, Hennepin County still partners with us on a social worker, and we pay 60% and they pay the other 40% of that, and also our JCPP program, and we're going to continue to look for ways to utilize technology. The city of Miami recently has a driverless car that goes out and responds to like burglaries. So as opposed to sending a police officer, they actually send an electronic vehicle that goes out and deals with people. So we're going to continue to look at technologies as we move forward here to improve our efficiencies. Budget highlights, we are largely just asking to maintain our current staffing and current service levels, and also the public safety aid that was given a few sessions ago is we're going to run out of that sooner or later, so we'll be here again with our hands out for that. Hopefully some of these grants pan through, but emerging topics, and this is what I'm going to spend a little bit of time on here and for the public. Paid parental leave. We got 91 of our employees that are currently of childbearing age. Since the council implemented this policy, we've calculated that this benefit that I wish was around when I had kids is costing us about 2.5 to 3 FTEs, and that's without the state's program that's set to take place here on January 1. A lot of people in my position are afraid or a little worried about the state's position that's going to start January 1 because it expands the amount of things that people can take off for. In addition, there's an attitude from people that because they're actually paying for the state's program, that if it's a benefit that they're paying for, so why not use it? If that happens, and I know the fire chief said the same thing, we're going to have some staffing issues to deal with, not just here in Bloomington, but statewide. The growing demand for brain health and wellness services, both internally and externally. Obviously, you know, mental health's been a significant thing. Since we've had our therapists, that program has really taken off and people have really found use for it. Our internal wellness programs are going great. And patrol sergeant staffing is something that we're going to continue to work with the city manager and the deputy city managers on, because in our patrol sergeant ranks right now, there's no relief factor at all. So if a sergeant takes off, gets hurt, we're paying overtime. And that overtime that we're paying is a little bit more than having another sergeant working in that position. So we'll have those discussions. Raising volume of data requests, and this is going to be the only political type shot I take during this presentation. With data requests, as we know, the legislature is not subject to data requests, so the law continues to not go changed. And if you look here, the amount of data requests that we're having to deal with here, and just to give you an example, the city of Bloomington as a whole right now, absent the police department, has only got like 500 some data requests, and we're at like 3,600. This is an extreme amount of staff time to deal with these data requests. Yeah, and then using AI, the news media kind of misreported that we've already deployed Draft 1. We haven't, which is the program where our officers would use AI to write reports. We're actually testing that. It has not been fully implemented throughout the police department. So if it turns out there's something we can use, we will, but we're going to continue to use technology. All right, I'm done. Any questions?
Council questions. Councilmember Rivas.
You mentioned the 91 employees of potentially having kids, right? And you are already planning on talking to the city manager and deputy city managers, but how many FTE if you think you would need to fulfill your needs in case of a sergeant or patrol sergeant is out, and including all these people that might have babies at the same time?
So the data that we have right now since the council implemented the policy is between 2.5 and 3 additional bodies. And that's just in the police department. I don't know what the rest of the cities.
Oh, that's very doable. You can have it. Just kidding. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Mua.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a comment on the paid parental leave as well. The paid parental leave in the private sector has been around for a long time. In fact, this year on my team, my job, I had 3 people out. which increased load for the rest of my team probably 25 to 30% for everybody else. And so I'd encourage the city as a whole to reach out to contacts, connects we have in the private sector to talk through what are the processes, what are the strategies to use to cover that. Because you're right. If you would have had it when you were having kids, how incredible that would be for your relationship with your children. It doesn't mean it's impossible for us to cover those or find strategies to support those people and continue to deliver the service that we have here in Bloomington, because the private sector has been doing it for much longer than everyone else. So continue to work on that, find our connections to help our staff get through this transition as we make that transition starting Jan 1.
So, and I just want to be clear, Councilmember, for us, it's not our civilian staff, it's our sworn staff, because they have to work 24 hours, 7 days a week. And when our civilian staff like if I was to take off, they can replace me, but our patrol officers, they're not able to do that with.
Councilmember D'Alessandro.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chief. So when we talk about the partnerships with like public health and everything on some of the mental health work that you're doing, Councilmember Rivas and I were kind of talking before the meeting about, what is the reason, for example, that we have a wellness director in the BPD budget versus having that same person in the public health budget supporting the BPD? Like, what is the logic behind why some things are funded out of BPD dollars versus they're funded out of public health dollars?
So that's a great question. And what we found is when these things are not funded from within the police department, police officers don't utilize them. So if you go back to looking at the city's formal EAP program and these other benefits that have been available to city employees for years, I know the city of Bloomington has been really good at providing those benefits. They don't use them. So once we brought these into the police department, we're starting to see our staff utilize them. And we're also partnering with the city on a few initiatives also. It's one of those things where the city staff, majority, don't have a problem utilizing something if it comes out of the police department, like a gym. Whereas the police department, on the other hand, if it's not somebody that they get to see every day, and no, they're not going to utilize the services.
Okay, that makes some sense to me. So then I guess the open question that you don't have an answer for today is that, does that mean that there's opportunities for the city to not fund to the police department or the things that they're not willing to use? So for example, if an EAP program is available to all employees, but 138 people aren't taking advantage of it, does the number, like, do we just not offer that EAP program to the police department anymore because they have this program instead, or something to that effect? Again, I don't know if that's doable.
Oh, no, I
cost savings
so
for that, or?
I'll say this: the city could do that, but a PTSD claim is costing us $500,000-$600,000, and we haven't had any of these since we've started to implement them within the police department.
Yeah.
So if you take it out, of the police department, I'm telling you, people aren't going to use it, and it's a lot more expensive to have people going out on these programs than it is to have it within the police department.
Yeah, I feel you, and I completely understand where you're coming from. My question was more about whether or not we are getting savings in outside of the police department by not necessarily providing those services to police anymore because they have their own. That was my question. Okay. And that's not a question you have the answer to. It's just an open question for the city staff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does the EAP program become more are we paying for a benefit that a whole group of people aren't using, is my question, because they have their own now.
Yeah.
And if we are, can we stop doing that and save some of that money, was my open question. More to everybody else, not to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Councilmember Lohman.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you at the outset of talking and comparing our police department with other police department, how many seats that they have there. In terms of how we ought to be looking at that, and also it represents our investment that we have had. If we look back 5 years ago, we've kind of increased our
our public service budget about 5%. And I think that there's still more work to be done there where we can continue to invest, but we've already done a great job of investing in the city of Bloomington, and want to be there, as I always have been, to support you in terms of those increases as we look to move forward. Thank you.
So just two quick questions on the data
Yes,
requests. First of all, how do they break down in terms of, I've got to imagine the majority of them now are camera related. They're video related, or are they still emails, or how does it break down?
It's everything. So we have a very good dashboard on, so that takes care of some of the let me see traffic data X, right? But when it comes to I want to get this report, I want to see emails, I want to see videos, that's the stuff that really bogs us down.
So, and that leads to my next question. Of course, all these data requests are important. They're all legitimate. They're all very important to somebody. But how many are really important, and how many are legitimate, and how many are frivolous that we end up having to do because either somebody has a bone to pick, or somebody is looking to throw sand in the gears? I mean, however they're doing it.
Yeah, some of that takes place, obviously.
You've got it. Okay.
Well, it's the video is the difficult part too. I mean, like I said, everything we do is on video now, right? And we just can't hand over video to people without it getting redacted. So if a cop goes on a call for an hour and we got 5 police officers there, and someone has to redact, and it's like if I'm the subject of the data and then everybody else in that video has to get redacted out. That's going to take a lot of time to do.
Yeah, understood. Council, any additional questions? All right, Chief, thanks much.
Thanks.
And our final budget discussion of the evening is with our legal staff. Ms. Manderscheid.
All right, good evening. I'm Melissa Manderscheid, City Attorney. I've never actually stood here with this. Do I? All right, here we go. I did it. So I'm joined tonight by our 2 deputy city attorneys, Peter Zuniga and Jennifer Cross, the civil and criminal team, respectively. And I will also extend our thank you to the finance team, especially Kari and others. We couldn't do this. We couldn't do every day without them. So thank you to them. Our process is going to follow. Our presentation is going to follow the same process that the others have done. So I'll just get started in the interest of time. We have a horizontal org chart on purpose because our work just cannot be done without the assistance of our support staff. We build on each other's work. Without the case being opened 100% accurately, the attorneys couldn't do their work, and so we build on each other. So I have it this way on purpose. You'll also see the 4 divisions that we have. As I mentioned, criminal and civil. We also have a risk and litigation manager that we share with the finance department with a 60-40 split. And then we have the compliance manager position. Here is our budget. It is predominantly personnel costs and technology, both of which are increasing in cost, in part due to some of the topics we'll talk about a little bit later. So we too participated in the priority-based budgeting and had some very similar experiences. The recommendations largely fell into 3 categories: things that we are already doing and could potentially do more of, things that we have already tried and decided we wanted to continue doing or stop doing for good reason, or things that have limited applicability to the city and to the legal department that we have here. Some examples here with regard to those observations. We brought this to you a couple of times in the past, restorative court. There was recommendations related to that. We're already doing that. That is a collaborative approach that we've undertaken, specialized for the disposition of cases that we have in the city of Bloomington. And it is a collaboration with Hennepin County and the judicial branch. Similar to what the chief just mentioned, it's a cost sharing for the social workers that staff that position. They are technically Hennepin County employees, and then we assist in a cost sharing of their personnel costs. That's incredibly successful. We've already doubled since it was created a couple of years ago. You heard the county commissioner make reference to it when she was here presenting. We'd really like to see it countywide, well beyond the presentation tonight, but it's a very successful program. The next category is the use of technology. We continue to leverage technology solutions to increase our efficiency. One example is our legal document management system. Another one is a litigation software system that is new, that is much more user-friendly. You've probably seen some emails. And our criminal division is doing a lot of work with body-worn cameras, the data that the chief talked about, all those officers that show up in their camera footage, all of our prosecutors have to watch that. So as their footage has increased, so has the workload of our prosecutors reviewing all that footage to prepare for court, and processing the discovery requests for that footage as well. And then similarly with the certified payroll tracking software, which is called LCP tracker. All right, the final part is some of the recommendations that didn't really make sense for our legal department in the city. There was some suggestions that we provide public training, and then also that we provide training for the wider organization of lawyers, and then charge them to come here. We don't do that per se. We do host the City Attorney Conference every year in the city of Bloomington, so we're doing our part with that in that regard at a Bloomington hotel. So all of the presentations that you've heard over these past few weeks, the legal department has supported many of those efforts, and clearly the easiest example of how we are aligned in our work as an internal city department. I could go on and on, but we draft 1,000 plus contracts. You've seen the DocuSigns. You've heard about the cases that we prosecute, the workers' compensation, and the administrative conferences. We'll talk about that a little bit. Here's some examples specifically. When somebody is cited, they have the opportunity to work through that process, and sometimes they appeal it all the way up through our administrative conference staff people in the legal department. They work out the situation to the best of the available options, and then what we do is we track what we're seeing, and we then have taken those suggestions to the various departments where those complaints are arising from most frequently, and you'll see some code amendments coming later this year to address some of them as well as next year. Similarly, with regard to the efforts related to the animal shelter, we have some animal-related ordinances that we would really like to move forward. However, we need some updates to the shelter to coincide with those revisions. So looking to tag team that alignment opportunity for the future. And then with regard to domestic violence is another example. We have an internal coordination working group at the City of Bloomington. It includes legal as well as police, public health, a lot of other parts of the city. And we coordinate those efforts, and we always are looking to enhance them with, for example, officer training and other sorts of engagements, including a training that we have later this week called In Her Shoes. With regard to some opportunities for revenue generation, they're listed here. Several of them were suggested by the PBB and also a couple by staff. We have not started doing internal chargebacks. It was suggested that we charge individual departments for our work. We don't do that in our current system, but certainly something that was suggested. Another thing that we've looked at a little bit over the years is, could we perform prosecution services for other jurisdictions that are also appearing in downtown where we are? It wouldn't be cost effective for us to do it for other jurisdictions that are in faraway courts, but potentially in downtown. We've had conversations before. They haven't moved forward, but that would be another possible opportunity. We wouldn't necessarily have enough staff to do that with our current arrangement, but certainly something that we could look at if that was of interest. Finally, I mentioned technology, and in the interest of time, I won't get into that. All right, so as I mentioned, we are constantly integrating with existing databases so that we can minimize the amount of data entry and high-touch tasks that can be otherwise performed by technology integrations with our internal and our external partners.
That often works great until the database changes and we then have to reintegrate with something else. But for the most part, that's a great opportunity to have some efficiencies. Another thing that was suggested by the PBB opportunity was that we create a prioritization system for our tasks. And this is an intriguing idea. We haven't worked out all the specifics of it, but something that we could potentially tackle in 2026. And then the other thing that we're very excited about, well, I'm very excited about it, I think the folks behind me are as well, is the additional use of law clerks. We are really limited on space, and as you know, we were able to do some remodeling, and so now we have the capacity to take on more law clerks, and so we're looking forward to that possibility in 2026. With regard to our budget highlights, we funded the collaboration with the county on the social workers with public safety aid, as well as a staff person that will be ending. So that's resulted in an increase in our personnel costs. The other thing is that we did an analysis of a citywide software that we use for prevailing wage, and we're going to be shifting that to the IT department. Again, as I mentioned, technology costs are a huge part of our budget, so you'll see that here. One of the other things is the Axon body-worn camera software. We did a citywide contract, and as a result of that, we got bundled into a larger package that is for the city, and we saw a very significant increase in our charges on that. With regard to emerging topics, we are looking always for additional diversionary options for certain types of cases. That takes a lot of time and effort to set up and do a good job, but we continue to look for those opportunities. AI, it's great and it's a challenge. We are noticing in our workplace so many generations in the workplace, but also very, very different levels of experience in working in the government. I regularly say that we give information at sort of two levels now, 101 and PhD. And so we need to do more time in training, and that will result in us lowering our legal risks. Another thing which is sort of ripped out of the headlines is the cyber attack coverage and preparedness. We have coverage, and we have to continue to be on guard about that. Essentially, if a contract is going behind our firewall, they have to have cyber coverage, in a nutshell. Another ripped out of the headlines is the compliance and auditing. You all made reference to that earlier tonight. It's definitely on our radar, and we are working to stay on top of that. Paid leave, we have also experienced that. One of the unique elements with regard to legal is that we have a lot of salaried employees, and so what happens is we just all work more. So when we've had a staff person out now, we all just sort of pick up the work. I picked up a part of it, Peter picked up some of it, some of our other attorneys picked up other parts of it, so everyone just works more. That's a different kind of challenge. And then ERPOs, I have all kinds of data on that. On the interest of time, I'll just say we were the first to file, and we're doing a whole lot of them. Peter's got another one tomorrow morning, and I'm happy to talk about that some more if you have questions. These take firearms out of dangerous situations and prevent future potential firearm situations. All right, any questions? That was very fast because
that was very fast.
Trying to
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Council, questions?
All right.
Sorry, one quick question.
Councilman, you don't have to, Councilman. You won't feel bad.
Well, I feel like I do, or else you'll get the question in December. Either way, I wonder. So there's this weird dichotomy in my own brain about the presentation that you gave and the increase in the expectations that we have and of the work that you're doing, especially as it relates to either civil or criminal work, and what's happening, what I hear in the public about what we're not enforcing as it relates to our civil code. So, for example, there's a lot of discussion in my neighborhoods about people who are getting away with for years not being in compliance with things like operating a commercial business out of their residence, or having a property that is basically a complete eyesore that neighbors have to deal with on the regular, et cetera. And I know that's environmental health, but it does eventually become a civil matter. And so the question I have is, are we reconciling, like, where is that is that increasing your burden? And if so, where are we seeing that in this budget discussion?
Mayor and members, I put up a slide here which has a graph. The chart with only blue columns, those are our administrative conferences. Those are the ones that appeal up to us. And you can see the numbers. I mean, they're like tripled. They're having multiple a week. And they do sort of have a seasonal fluctuation to them because a lot of them, frankly, are paint, and you're not painting during certain times of the year. So there's a seasonal fluctuation, but they're averaging anywhere from 1 to 3 a week.
And that's with the staff on the civil side, correct?
Well, it's a part of the compliance division, but yes.
The compliance division, okay. So I think it's something to put on our radar because while you're having all of those hearings, I have a feeling that there are a lot going unheard, simply because whether environmental health is not bringing them to you, they're not being escalated to that situation for whatever reason, and there's no judgment there, or because we're not enforcing it, or we're not checking in on it. I don't know what the answer is there, but it feels like a disconnect to me, and I am worried that we're not accommodating what we want to see happen, which is compliance. It's somewhere in this budget, and so I just open that up to maybe some analysis before it comes back for final. In the event that what you think you're going to see in 2026 isn't accurate based on what environmental health might be actually managing.
Well, Mayor members, I will say that we very intentionally have changed our legal delivery model with regard to the EH type of violations. We did an analysis of where were the highest impact interactions with legal, and we stepped out of the ones where they were repeaters. We have a fair number of households that just repeat the violation year after year after year. They just pay the fine. So where we have those instances, we have stepped out of our legal review of them because there's not very much legal value to that. But what I hear you saying is that there are these repeaters and maybe we need some new solutions.
Thank you. Nothing else, Council? Thank you much.
All right.
Just very quickly, who do we have next? Or are we're done? Or
So next up will be November 17th. It will be the utility rates public hearing.
Good.
So that's
and the
what will be
public
next.
comment opportunity.
Yes.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you much. Next on our agenda, Council, the Council policy and issue update. And I will start us off. Just a quick recap of our listening session. We had one speaker tonight. Karen Lundquist spoke on a couple of different issues. She spoke about the desire or possibly the need for the anti-reflective treatment on city glass on windows to prevent bird strikes on the glass, and both in new and existing buildings. And she also talked about the dog leash ordinance, how some people just kind of flout it and don't have their dogs on a leash when they're out for a walk, and wanted to express her concern about that and see if there was more that the council could do to make sure that that's tightened up. And brought up to her that all of our animal ordinance, I think, is under review on the 2026 work plan with our legal team. So hopefully we will see that. Okay. And Karen was our only speaker tonight, and once again a unique speaker for our listening session. Any comments, questions on that, Council?
Do we kill the dogs at the pound after a certain period of time? Or the shelter?
We have a dog shelter, and no, we do not euthanize there.
Oh, okay. I have a call from a resident that said that he was going to pick up a dog that he liked, and they told him that he had been euthanized, and I wasn't sure, but I said that we don't.
I
claimed
know we don't do it at our
Yeah.
facility here.
He claimed that an employee told him that, so I'm gonna go dig deeper into that, but
Okay.
yeah, just curious.
That's all I have tonight. Mr. Walker, do you have anything?
Our goal is to have the community running because they're tired of hearing about this, but we're going to over-advertise public comment period on November 24th for the budget. Truth and Taxation hearing on December 8th. For the council's benefit, we'd like you to also know that we intend to advertise that in the November and December briefings. The November 5th and 19th buzz on Bloomington Today, as well as posts on Facebook and Nextdoor and information on the city's website. And we'd certainly welcome the council's assistance in socializing it in any channels you have. Want to over-communicate those opportunities to the public.
Very good. Any questions on that, Council? Council, is there anything you'd all like to bring forward? Councilmember Lohman?
I had something else, but not enough time. Just don't forget to vote.
That's right. Anything else? Council, we've reached the end of our agenda. Just in time. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember D'Alessandro, second by Councilmember Lohman to adjourn tonight. No council discussion on this. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned. Thanks for the discussion tonight, Council. Thank you, staff, for your input, and thanks to our many folks who showed up tonight and were part of this from the community. It was a good meeting. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your week.